Live from iRacing's virtual Darlington Raceway in Darlington, South Carolina, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series playoffs. It is a throwback night here at the track Too Tough to Tame, and it is the first step on this 10-race campaign for the championship, and we're so excited to have you with us for tonight's round of 16, Elwood Designs Southern 500. As always, alongside of myself, Evan Pasoko, happy to be joined by Nolan Rempel and Terry Radford in the RaceSpotTV booth. Our director is Hugo Luis downstairs, and this is a fun and a challenging night, gentlemen, as we welcome all of you to join us here in the booth because, Nolan, this is a lot of excitement, right? A lot of drivers months ago got their wins, knew they'd have a chance to fight for the Full Throttle Cup this season. Now it gets real, right? We asked a lot of questions over the fall. You know, what do you do until you get to the playoffs? What can you learn? What can you get? None of that matters. None of the 20 races that have already happened matters. It all starts anew here tonight, and we're better to open a new season than at Darlington.
Darlington Speedway has got to be one of the most famous tracks on the NASCAR calendar. It has been known to be one of the oldest paved tracks that NASCAR has ever been to in its history, as well as one of the toughest and the tightest. I would dare say this track on its actual racing surface at the corners, tighter than what you get at tracks like Bristol and Martinsville. That's what we're working with here, only the speed's much, much higher. It's going to take everything these drivers have to try to make sure they can survive this first race of the playoffs and make that one step further to break it into that round of 12.
And as always, the best dressed in the booth is Terry Radford. And Terry, we could say that it's like throwing him into a ring here tonight on a throwback night because this is a racetrack where, to Nolan's point, it looks wide, but that racing surface is tight and up against the wall, and I think it's going to be a physical one this afternoon.
Like fighting in the middle of the ring here. They're going to go in there side by side in contact. But the cream rises to the top, Evan. It's going to be epic. It's going to be huge. And the mega powers, I tell you, the mega powers, they're going to rise tonight.
And we'll see who survives at the end of this one. There's already some early playoff drama. A couple of big names missing through the practice session so far to this point. So going to be interesting to see if all of those 16 drivers make it here this afternoon. Of course, unlike what you see with the current NASCAR playoffs, things are a little bit different here. There's not 40 points of playoff points that drivers carry over. It's the old school 3 points per race win. So your 4-time race winners this year are at the top of the reset. Brandon 6, Kevin King, and Matt Danson with 2,012 points have a slight edge over the rest of the field. Of course, you can see Casto, Johnson, Burke, Bowie, Lariah, Cato Wetmore, all the drivers who pointed their way in, stuck at that 2,000 marker, guys. We will decide over the course of here tonight at Darlington, at Kansas, and at Bristol who will advance on to that round of 12, and a win in any of these next 3 races is a golden ticket on through.
Certainly will be. As we look down at the calendar, you can see Kansas and Bristol, the last 2 races in this round of 16 before we swing on over for the round of 12, where the speeds get a little bit higher when we swing on down to Texas and Talladega, with the Charlotte Roval capping that off in the middle of October. And then, of course, it's time to hit some good old NASCAR classics in that round of 8 before we get to the final 4 over at the Phoenix International Raceway for the first and only race of November in this 2020-22 season. It's been a long time coming, though. A lot of these drivers have been preparing specifically for these races, and now qualifying position is going to be very, very key. We've said this time and time again. We've seen this time and time again. Qualifying at this track, it's make or break for your whole race.
It really is, and this is also going to be a bit of a battle of survival, right? Tonight's race brought to you by our friends at Elwood Designs for the Elwood Designs Southern 500. Taking a live look in at the qualifying session. Tonight's race, in actuality, 251 miles in length as you jump on board there with one of your playoff drivers, Sean Casto. But it is 250 miles in length. That's still a long race. 184 laps, going to be one of the longer races of the season. So qualifying will help you out, but I think being patient as well going to be really critical.
Yeah, being patient is going to be the only key here, Evan. As you saw it yesterday in the Cup race and in the Xfinity race this past weekend, you couldn't really charge. You couldn't really make a whole lot of passes. She really had to be smart and methodical with what she was doing. But you look at your playoff guys right now. The only person that's in the top 5 that's not a playoff guy is William Smith at the moment. Agnell Phillip has arose to the party. He's kind of been mid-power coming in to the playoffs, but now he's rose to the top. Kevin King's still doing good. Cody Harris is still doing good. But look down there, 13th on bat. That's a Brandon 6, Matt Danson. That's a little scary if you're them trying to come through this field here.
Of course, Danson, a 4-time race winner, but 3 of those on the road courses. He really wants to make sure that he can get himself into the round of 12 because he's undefeated on those circuits this year. And of course, that's the round into which the Charlotte Roval falls into. You can see Brandon DeBowie as well, still sporting the Mamba de Mombasita paint scheme from last week's Racing for a Cause 200 on board his car as the qualifying session draws to an end. And as always, as we do every year, going to make it as easy as possible for you at home to track where your favorite of those playoff 16 drivers are. They will be identifiable on the racetrack with some red markings on the cars, on the spoilers, the splitters, and the windshield banners. There's a good example as that 2 car rolls off and you can see the red spoiler, red trim on the front of the race car, and really that windshield banner going to be the most easily identifiable. And of course, you'll be able to track them through the standings. They'll be highlighted in red on our Kayla Synthetics leaderboard all night long. This is, though, our second trip to Darlington this year, Nolan. There's not a lot of racetracks that we visit 2 times in a year, and your winner from back in May is Agnell Phillip. I wonder how excited he is for tonight's race.
Agnell Phillip, obviously a driver that's been very strong so far. Going to be starting up on pole position here in just a few minutes and also top the practice board. So if there's ever a driver that's looking to go back-to-back at Darlington, it's going to be that 94 car. We'll have to keep an eye on that A51 Pro Chevrolet throughout tonight's 184-lap race.
We've seen Freenosh and others win this playoff race en route to their championships, but qualifying into practice is done. Let's go trackside and take a look at your Kayla Synthetics starting grid. And speak of the devil, your winner from the spring race, Agnell Phillip, on pole position with a 29.383. He will bring us to the green flag alongside Kevin King in second. Cody Harris will start third tonight with Michael Johnson alongside in fourth, and William Schmidt, the first non-playoff competitor, P5, next to the number 2 of Sam Nieto.
Moving on down through the field, you've got Nick Silver for Keeping It Real Esports and Chris Rabel on row number 4. Jared Weimaster and Thomas George for XP Motorsports, and Steel Horse rounding out the top 10 with Brandon Fetter placed in 11th and Joseph Tice in 12th.
And you go back here to 13th. You got Michael Araya and Brandon 6. Matt Danson, you talked about him being a 4-time winner this season. He's back there in 15th with Christian Maltrek. I think I'm saying his name right. I'm not too sure there. Ross Cato and Sean Casto around that top 18.
Continuing on through, Tom Wetmore is going to find himself at 11th position. He got that final spot in on points last week ahead of Anansi Manger in 20th. Stanford, Kalb, Freenosh, and Morano, P3 last week. They're your top 24.
Grant Davis is 25th with Connor Horn beside him. Row number 8 holds Brandon Bowie and Kyle Kamer. That'll make row 14 with Rhett McBride and Brian Chambliss to round out the top 30.
You got Gary Sexton down there making his first start down here in the 31, the number 1 machine at 31st. Eric Papineau down there in 32nd. Garrett Hess 33rd. Michael Kuczynski in 34th, and Brad Fulham. He's going to round out the top 35.
So a pair of first-time starters there in the bottom. We take a look at your RSR race information. Tonight's race, 184 laps, 250 miles in distance. Fixed setups, no fast repairs, full 100% fuel cells, and up to 3 attempts and an overtime finish should we need them. This Darlington Raceway clocks into 1.366 miles in length. Turns 1 and 2 banked at 25 degrees. But down here in 3 and 4 is where it widens things out. 23 degrees. Going to be a fun one here tonight. Pace car off it in, field in the hands of the 94 of Agnell Phillip for the first time this year. We say, let's go playoff racing at Darlington. And new race leader, lap number 1 in the books. It was a move on the outside for Kevin King, who goes to the race lead early. Playoff competitors running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as they race off of turn number 2 and down the Boeing backstretch.
And now single file all throughout this field as well. Doesn't take these guys long to get themselves sorted out single file concessional line over here at the Darlington Raceway. You see one of those playoff drivers under fire though. Sam Nieto moves to the outside. He'll pick up the spot of Michael Johnson for 4th with an outside pass off the exit of turn 4. You want to get a pass at Darlington? That's how you get it done right there.
Yeah, you kind of got to sneak up on them and make it seem like you're ready to pounce. And you don't really want to go 2 by 2 here at Darlington this early in the race. You want to kind of save that for a little later on in the run. Save your tires for about 15 to 20 laps because you know you're going to have to pit, somewhere. You're going to pit somewhere in the 30 range. These cars are going to get undrivable. They're going to get out of control. You're really going to see who the wheel man is on the racetrack when you start to fight the back end. But right now, Sam Nieto, he's throwing it down. He threw the gauntlet. He was a full 10th faster than Kevin King and Agnell Phillip right there, and he's rim riding, son. He's all the way up against that thing. He's dang near kissing it.
He has clearly got the motivation to go early. So does Cody Harris. Harris just got passed up by Nieto, and in front of him you can see the 2 car making a move to the outside of the racetrack. There have been many times this year where we talked about the lack of tire fall off. That will not be the case here tonight at Darlington. Most drivers, that means King, Phillip, Harris, seemingly wanting to pace themselves early. Sam Nieto knows that this playoff is going to come down to every single point you can score, and if he can get around Kevin King, he can score his first point of the night if he's able to lead a lap. King has led the opening 4. Nieto on the back bumper, the 31 Chevrolet, looking for the race lead off at turn 4.
Closing right up to the back end of that team machine, trying to make the move into turns 1 and 2, looking for the inside line. Kevin King has seen him working that top side though, covers it up until they get right where you need to arc it in on the exit of 2. Down the back straightaway, Nieto's been making all of his moves so far in 3 and 4. It's much tighter than 1 and 2. You have to be on the binders a little bit longer. Nieto's taking advantage. He's going to sweep to the outside line, but not able to execute the pass this time around. Kevin King hangs on for lap 6.
Back on the gas so much faster than you've seen people in practice and so far in this race. But you talk about Darlington really shredding the tires. They're already running. Their best time was a 29.7. They're already running 30.1s. Darlington to me reminds me of a night of drinking. You go out, if you go too fast, too hard, you're done. You ain't doing it again. But you want to pace yourself here. Slow drink, drink some water. Slow drink, drink some water. You want to do that here. You go in the corner, you want to float it just a tad bit, and then get back on the gas. You don't want to overly sweep these corners. You want to be as steady as possible, as easy on the brake as possible. But how many times, Evan, have we seen that Rusty Wallace scheme run up front at Darlington Speedway? What a throwback night for these drivers.
That thing back in its day knew its way around Darlington, and I'll tell you what, so many people continued to bring that legendary paint scheme back year after year, and fun to see that Sam Nieto has done so once again here tonight, and doing it justice right now, still in second, kind of forcing Kevin King to be aggressive here if King wants to hang on to the race lead. I referenced before this race started, we were missing a couple of playoff drivers. We had not seen Cody Harris. He did make it into this race. Obviously, he's in 4th position right now after not taking part much in qualifying or practice. However, we are missing Bradley Burke. So 15 of your 16 playoff cars here on track tonight. They are all on the lead lap. The lowest 2 runners, you're about to see them on the left-hand side of your screen at the bottom there. Bowie and Freenosh, 30th and 31st. Everybody else running inside of the top 20.
That's not good for Bradley Burke either, as you mentioned, because that's going to put him in essentially a must-win situation if he wants to get his way over into the round of 12. It's going to be a really rough ride for Bradley Burke throughout the remainder of this round of 16, assuming he shows up for the races over at Kansas and Bristol a little bit later on throughout the month. Now, of course, 12 points doesn't seem all that much when you look at how large some other points gaps have been throughout the regular season, but that is still about 12 positions in the midfield, and in the field like this, that's almost half of the field. You're down already on points entering just the first race. You miss out on this one, you're going to be 43 points out. You're not going to be able to reel that in just 2 races.
No, you're absolutely right. And the good part about it is going to Kansas, right? You're going to Kansas, high speed, high downforce. You're going to have a lot of momentum carried around there. And we've seen Burke run really well. But this race also isn't over. We're 12 laps into this race. You could have some playoff drivers. You know, you could have 4 or 5 of them have some issues. And, you know, Burke came in with this. I don't believe he came in with playoff points here. So he's not really he's at a disadvantage. But if something happens to these playoff drivers, we could really see him not be in such a huge hole. Granted, he's not going to get any points here tonight, but other people might just get one. So we have to look at people like Freenage, people like Bowie, drivers that are just there. Look at their contact in the wall. The 67 goes in the wall there. That's Connor Horn. Not a lot of practice. Barely got into the server before we have got it. And it's playoff driver with the 51 and the 67. They're racing hard here.
They are racing very aggressively in a battle for 17 and 18th position right now. Horn, the one trying to be on the move, is plus 8 positions already tonight. That's after Horn did not take a time in qualifying. Referenced a couple of drivers joined in late. So he started based on iRating back in P26. In fact, a decent number of cars didn't queue up. About a third of the field opted to not participate in qualifying. So for all of the talk that we had earlier this evening about track position, it is interesting that so many drivers opted to kind of play it safe from the rear. You're on board with Tom Wetmore. He was the last driver to qualify in. He'll go down and around. Christian Balcherik and Connor Horn will follow him through as well. So a couple of more playoff drivers on the move in the opening 15.
You mentioned, of course, a lot of drivers almost uncharacteristically taking it safe considering how important the track position is. But, I mean, you remember back to that first Darlington race of this year where we had so many of those cautions in the early stages. I think we had, 3, 4 within the first 20 laps, and then we ended up going green flag to the end. I think that's what a lot of those guys are banking on. They're going to get some of those early race cautions, and we're going to be able to run this race to the green from there after they picked up some free spots. You had just seen Ross Cato lose a bit of traction up turn number 4. That opened up the door for Lariah to try to make his way through. Cato blocked, though, and he was not able to find a way through. But that's been happening more and more commonly in the back portion of this field, Terry, is off of turn 4. These guys getting looser and looser as time goes along. Sooner or later, that's going to end with one car at the inside wall.
Well, Nolan, that's playing along with the dirty air here. You see, there's not a lane for you to get clean air when drivers are side by side. Battle for the lead just took place, and Move Nieto, very surprised too, by the way. I've been watching his lap times. Very, very surprised that he has stayed the most consistent out of all the drivers up here. Agnell Phillips stayed consistent with a 30.64. Cody Harris is still running 30.64s as well. But when you look at Sam Nieto's lap times, he's really backing the corner up. For as much as it looks like he's charging, he's not really charging as much. But those drivers in the mid-pack that are getting loose off the exit of the corner, they're carrying a lot more speed. I know draft doesn't play a whole lot of a factor here, but it does to an extent. You come off that very, very fast turn 1 and you go into a slower corner of turn 3, you're carrying a ton of momentum down this back straightaway, and then you're arcing it here. You see on board with Agnell Phillip, it goes down to the bottom, and then he kind of drifts it back up. He stays in the center, it goes back down to the bottom, he burps it there, and the car wiggles. There's not a whole lot of room back there for those drivers to get that clean air. They're just sailing it off in the corner, hoping to make a pass or hoping somebody bobbles.
So 2 different race leaders so far in these opening 20, none of which are your pole sitter, Agnell Phillip, who you look at him right now, the defending race winner from back in May, lost the race lead before we even got off of turn number 2 on the opening lap of this race, fell back a little bit initially, and now has closed back in on Kevin King, as it appears that your race leader at this point, Sam Nieto, continuing to set that aggressive pace early, but is that something that he's going to be able to maintain long term? We referenced earlier, Nolan, this is probably one of, if not the longest races of the season. 250 miles, 184 laps. Drivers have 4 additional sets of tires to work with. Obviously, a lot of the strategy, as always here at Darlington, going to be dictated by strategies and caution flags and those kind of cycles. But I just am curious if Nieto can maintain this pace, because if he can, it would be awfully impressive as you take a step back and look at a bit of a side-by-side battle down into 3. It's Eric Stanford under fire. The challenger is Brian Chambliss.
And And in fact, Eric Stanford, that would actually be the third spot he has lost on just this lap. It was because he got way loose off of turn 4 that unsettled his run down to the 1 and 2. So that is why he has dropped from 26th to 29th in the span of 1 lap as Chambliss works his way up and by. Next driver is going to have to worry about going to be Brad Fulham in that WestJet Chevrolet right behind him while the MRM machine starts to pull away in front. See on board with Fulham as he continues to try to run down Eric Stanford up the road. There it is again. Stanford getting loose just like he did 2 laps ago. That's going to be Foley around this time, trying to hang on still. Papano scrambles to the inside, and Eric Stanford, he's going to hit that good old escape key before he can cause a caution.
That was smart. That was smart heads up move there for Stanford. He knew he was loose. He understood the position that he was going to put other drivers in here. You know, you don't want to do this, but look here, battle for the lead again. Kevin King, he's not backing down from Sam Nieto. Oh, they almost make contact. The 2 gets a little loose up there on the outside. Agnell Phillip makes the run there. And Evan, to your point, could Nieto carry the pace that he was carrying? He has fell off big time there. I mean, he literally was running 30.6s. He's dropped down now to 31 flats. The tire fall-off's gone. And we got cars around the 5. The Terry Labonte schemes around. And the 52 is Sean Casto. Caution flags out.
So the yellow is out. The 5 machine you see spun around on the inside of the racetrack. Susan Tice looks like he collects a playoff driver. Let's see a side-by-side battle. And oh, look at that. The 5 cleared, I think, Windmaster. And when he pulled up in front, Windmaster tried to cross him over, hit him square in the bumper, turn the 5, guys. And Sean Casto, a playoff driver, caught up in an incident that was started by 2 players who are not in that championship fight.
That's going to be frustrating for him to say the very least. You see the 51 car just barely avoid getting caught up in that mess. I know if I was in Sean Casto's place, I would be livid with that. At the same time, though, you can hardly blame them for racing. They got their own points battles going on that they all have to be concerned about. Sometimes it's not just all of the playoff drivers. That's one of the casualties of being a playoff driver, trying to work your way through non-playoff traffic. Meanwhile, it is everybody down pit road this time by. And when I say everybody, I do mean everyone, save for Joseph Tice, who took the toe to the pit lane.
Yeah, I think even the pace car came down to get tires as well from just riding around on the parade laps. But this is what makes NASCAR so special. There's no other team, there's no other sport that tells a non-playoff team to go out there and play a playoff team. You know, you don't see the Tennessee Titans going out there playing the New York Jets out there on the field. That's a non-playoff team. Or the Crimson Tide playing the Volunteers in the college football playoff. It doesn't happen. No shot to my balls. But if we're not in the playoffs, we're not in the playoffs. But you look at people like right now, Brian Chambliss. He just now jumped to P2. He missed pit road or just drove through all the stalls. He didn't pit. He's there. But look at these drivers. Chris Rabel's down there. William Schmidt, Jaron Weinmaster, Thomas George. They're racing people like Tom Whitmore, Michael Araya. They could potentially come up here and steal a position from one of these playoff drivers. And that 1 point, Evan, could potentially not help them make the round of 12 or the round of 8 or the round of 4. You could miss it by racing a non-playoff driver. Uh-oh, Nano's back in.
So Sam Nieto will make now his first official trip down to the pit lane. He did not, I believe, get any sort of bonus points there for leading a lap. So it is going to be a net loss for Sam Nieto. Of course, he already had some from earlier, but you know, doesn't gain anything per se from staying out for longer. So curious what the strategy call for Sam Nieto. I think he probably just missed his stall that first time through. We saw a couple of drivers do so. Something else that's interesting as we're already doubled up getting set for the restart is that Kevin King actually went too deep in his box, had to shift into reverse for that pit stop to be legal, and he still had the fastest stop out of anybody with a 14.0, so he will maintain his status as the race leader, and we will see a restart with your top 7 cars all being drivers in the playoffs. Pace car down and in. Kevin King wants to be on the inside. Still a long way from home in Darlington. 26 laps down. Green flag back in the air.
Kevin King jumping to an early lead. lead as we are going to take off towards turn number one. Grecken in the back. It's Freenosh around, defending multi-time champion, and he had help to start this one off.
He had a major issue, Terry. I think Andrew Freenosh missed the shift.
That happens here. As crazy as that sounds, it happens quite often. And especially with these next-gen cars, you got to think sequential shifting. You know, he's sitting there going. The checkup happens in front of you here because by the time Kevin King touches the restart zone, it's over. He downshifted. According to Nolan, he downshifted. That is crucial. And guess what? You're not checking up for anybody, and you really aren't checking up for Andrew Freenosh, who has been kicking people's butt here, but he has struggled big time here. He has been mired back in the low 20s, upper 30s all race long, and he's 30th now, 15 seconds off the race lead.
So exactly what I thought it was. He missed the shift and misshifted. Instead of going up in a gear, he went down, and that misshift for him is going to be huge, not only because he got a little bit of contact and spun guys, but he only hit one other car, spun down to the inside on his own, so there was no yellow. Let's watch this. You can see the dash go red as those RPM spiked, but as he went down to the bottom, everybody else did a great job of avoiding him, guys. And Nolan, he never got a yellow. So this race stays green, and Andrew Freenosh is now way behind your race leaders, down in the 30s with a little bit of damage on his car. And up front, Kevin King into the fence. So battle for the race lead bottom right, coming off a 2. Andrew Freenosh is half a racetrack behind because of that.
Good news is it's still a long way to go. We still have over 150 laps remaining. I almost guarantee you we're going to get another caution before this race is over. So Freenosh will be able to have his chance to fight for the race lead once more. Kevin King trying to fend off, defending Darlington winner Agnell Phillip. Down to the turn number 1. 31 car is going to push up. 94 will follow with him. It's a very interesting way you profile the corners here at Darlington. They're both really double apex corners just because of the nature. You have to hit that first apex at 1, push out to the wall, then diamond it back down for turn number 2. Turns 3 and 4 work a very similar fashion, and it is those types of situations that make what is often quoted as the Darlington stripe so common on the right side doors of these race cars. No doubt we're going to be seeing plenty of cars with those stripes before this race is over. King still hanging on for the race lead.
Yeah, I love the fact that you brought up the Darlington stripe here because we saw a lot of issues in the last year's car and the year before that where you would get in the wall and it would just glue you to the wall. You couldn't really get off of it. These things with the composite bodies, they bounce off the wall. You go up there and scrape it for a little bit, but it seems to be a little easier to get off the wall. I'm an expert at hitting the wall here at Darlington. Not a big fan of this racetrack. Haven't been good in the trucks, the B cars, or these next gens. These next gens have been really hard to even figure out for me here. But look at Matt Danson now. Matt Danson has moved up 10 positions. Brandon Sixth has moved up 10 positions. But look at the paint scheme here. That's cute. I need that. I need that in my life.
It's colorful, hard to miss it. And Danson looking good in the top 5. He has 5 top 5 finishes so far this season. Of course, 4 of those are his race wins that he had over the course of the regular season. Chasing down the battle in front that is still Kevin King, Agnell Phillip, and Cody Harris in order in a battle for the top 3 guys. And now your playoff drivers occupying the top 8 positions with Tom Wetmore now at a race high P8. So you talk about the cream rising to the top. Well, those playoff competitors, there you go. They're doing it. They feel the weight of the moment early in this postseason, and they are really doing everything they can. But I'm just worried about that pit cycle because we had only done some 25, 26 laps, and everybody came down to get 4 freshies, guys. You only got 3 more sets left. You cannot sustain taking tires every 25, 30 laps. So at some point, hard decisions are going to need to be made as Michael Araya is doing a hard job of trying to find a spot in line right now. Can't do it. Winemaster blocks that outside and defends.
XPM doing a good job to maintain that outside groove, but there's a gap building up to Thomas George of the Sirius XM Mustang just up the road as a result of this one. Lariah will clear this time around, and Weimester forced to back out this time around as we continue to watch these fights shaking up, not just in the top 10, also up in the top 5, and even behind these guys as well. Everywhere you look in this field, it is the exact same story as even just up the road. You can see the likes of Nick Silver being overtaken by Michael Johnson, as well as Tom Wetmore even further behind. How about the 29 car? Losing out a bit of time there deeper in this field as we continue to work our way around the Darlington Raceway.
Find it funny you mentioned tires, Evan, because I actually did some math for the first time in my life that actually made sense. From 2 laps ago, if they were to pit with the 3 sets of tires they have left from pitting where they did, they could pit every 49 laps. So somebody has to be in these drivers' ears that you cannot, and I mean you cannot go out here and tear your tires up as we have a battle for the lead. Here comes Agnell Phillip. They make contact, 31.94. What a battle. Kevin King goes to the outside. He stays up there. Agnell Phillip goes to the bottom. He's not going to get him this time. He's going to tuck back in behind him and not pull a Kyle Busch when he wrecked Chase Elliott here. He'll get himself clear, but he slides back to P2. This is shaping up to be a really good fight between these playoff drivers.
I think we all knew that Agnell Phillip wasn't going to be held back for long, and look at that, even a bit of a block there as he kind of yielded to the inside. He saw Cody Harris coming up behind him. You jump on board with that 28 machine to Harris now. Harris maybe was thinking about going to the inside. Phillip blocked that, but you know, Agnell lost that race lead on lap 1 because Kevin King was able to rein around the top side, guys. Agnell Phillip could not have selected the outside for the initial start, so he's been playing catch-up all night long, now looking to the outside of Kevin King. Not going to be able to find a way through there. He'll continue to try his best as your race leaders start to catch up to Sean Casto, the damaged playoff entry in the 52 machine, who was involved in that accident prior. There is his all-red Camaro, bottom of your screen. So your race leaders going to have to navigate by him. But look at that single file train. That is essentially your top 21 cars, all within about 3 seconds of change of one another. There is not a lot of separation through the midfield.
There really is not, and that is due to just how difficult it is to overtake drivers when you have the one guy at the front of this train, Kevin King, really setting the pace so far. If he's backing off, so is everybody else, because you're not going to be able to make any kind of speed trying to be a hero like you can of potentially a super speedway if you got somebody slowing you up there. They've now caught Sean Casto. This might cause issues on such tight racetrack. Casto's going to stay up top. Wise move, as they're right by that apex, and he's going to let everybody file through one by one on that bottom lane. Sean Casto's been consistently lapping about 2 seconds slower than all of your front runners in this field. He's hoping for another caution as well, so we can get that damage fixed up, as well as that he can now get back on the lead lap, as he was now 2 down.
Well, that lap when they came by, the way that Phillip actually caught Casto there, he was 2/10 slower than your race leader Kevin King. So it's not about catching lap traffic, it's where you catch them. Off the exit of 4 is not where you want to catch a lap down driver. For Kevin King, he caught him in the center. He was able to get around him, drive through the center of the corner, still continuously keep the momentum off the exit. But for Agnell Phillip, he caught him right at the end, but that lap he was 2/10 faster. So Agnell Phillip lost it, went back to about 3/10. He's back to 1/10 of a second behind him. As you take a look back here a little further back for a second, we got a side-by-side battle. That's Brandon Six and Matt Danson try to work each other out. And there for a second, Evan, I thought it was Danson, and then I saw the colors, and I was like, that's definitely Matt Danson.
Yeah, no mistaking it here tonight. It may take a little bit of adjusting to be used to that as the 38 car, but you know, you got a lot of special paint schemes still left over from the charity event last week at Daytona. A couple of drivers sporting some throwback paint schemes, of course, in the spirit of the Elwood Design Southern 500 here tonight. So that's why you got to reference that KaylaSynthetics.com leaderboard on the left-hand side of your screen. If you're curious where some of your favorite drivers are running, that is where you can find all of that information. And Danson, for the moment, staying ahead of who I think everybody widely considers your championship favorite. Brandon Six tied for the most wins this year out of anybody else with 4, has the most top 5s with 15, 17 top 10s, your regular season champ. I mean, this is the performance of Brandon Six's career.
It really has, and I mentioned this last week that these next-gen cars have really brought Brandon Six out in form, and he has already been proving that he didn't even just this race. He's worked his way from 14th place all the way up to 5th on the grid. And a track is difficult to pass as Darlington. That is a very impressive feat. And he is going to continue to work his way on up. The driver up in front of him, though, Matt Danton. He's made up 11 spots this race, 15th to 4th, and of course, dominated the last road course race we had as well. So Matt Danton on a sweep so far of all road courses so far this season. Still got one more, though, in that Charlotte Roval coming on up later on in that round of 12. Danton going to be looking, though, to at least put himself into a position points-wise where he can at least be able to take that race and lock his way into the round of 8 come the Charlotte Roval.
I know you think Brandon Six is the championship favorite, but the championship favorite, in my opinion, is sitting in P1 right now. It's Kevin King. Kevin King has won in short tracks. He has went out. He's won on super speedways. He's ran really well at the intermediate tracks. Look at him right now. Darlington, he's leading. He has led the majority of the laps other than just letting Nieto by because he didn't want to have to fight him as hard, and Nieto gets around. And now look at Nieto. He's trailed back. He has fallen off the pace this much, so it shows you the consistency of the 31. That's my guy. That's the guy I'm riding with here in the playoffs. I said it before, that's your championship favorite, but shout out to the man sitting there in P6 up 13. There's a lot of drivers on the move in this top 20 that has moved double-digit positions here this afternoon.
Yeah, Wetmore's doing a real good job. I don't think anybody is going to argue your take there of Kevin King being your championship favorite. I think that most people on a bracket would have King, would have Six, and maybe Agado Phillip as well. Talking about all these big players in their championship 4. Kevin King also tied for the most wins this year with 4, second in the other categories with 10 top 5s and 13 top 10s. But Wetmore's peaking at the right moment, Nolan, and that's where you find a balance, right? I mean, so many drivers got wins early, right? And then we talked about, what were they going to do for the rest of the year? Connor Horn winning in Vegas. You had the likes of Agado Phillip winning back here at Darlington a while ago, and then trying to see how they could maintain that through the year. I think this is the strongest that Wetmore's been all season, and there's something to be said about finding that momentum at the right time.
You prove a good point here. Wetmore has been really on the up and up. I mean, we were kind of a bit unsure as to where he would sit so far throughout the season. It's unfortunate he didn't have too much luck in the regular season as well, as he is, of course, among those drivers that is not in contention for a championship so far this season. Or excuse me, he is. Got a bit mistaken there. Not running that red band like all of our other playoff drivers are. But you mentioned, Tom Wetmore in that position to win that championship. It's been that good at a right point in your career, and I think that at the moment Tom Wetmore is really feeling the pressure. You see Nick Silver looking to get around him so far. Wetmore's going to make that easy, though. Let Nick Silver by. No need to fight it out side by side through a corner this early in the race. Still got over 100 laps remaining. But you're absolutely correct. Tom Wetmore is coming to great form as well, much like all of our other playoff drivers are. Very curious to see if he's going to be able to put himself up into championship contention by the end of this race.
And when you talk about a driver coming on at the right time, Nick Silver, we're riding with him. He has been just like Kevin Harvick in the real world. He shows up, and you go, man, where was Nick Silver for the majority of the race? And then you look over at your leaderboard. Oh, no, the 11th. Don't look to her, buddy. There's people smoking everywhere out here. It looks like Cale Yarborough's in-car back in the day. There's smoke all over the place. That's David Cobb. No caution. Single car spin. But back to my point with Nick Silver, every time you turn around, Evan, you look at your board with about 10 to go. He's in the top 10, top 5, and you go, oh, man, has he been running there all day? And then you track his race, and you go, wow, Nick Silver just flew under the radar, and we had no idea he was there, but he shows up in big moments. Here we are at Darlington. He's closing in on a top 5, and there's people in the wall. This is getting fun. We'll take a look and see what happened to Cobb here coming off of 4.
He looped it. But he does get help right there. And would you be surprised if I told you that the driver that hit him was the 48 of Jaron Windmasters? Similar thing happened when we had the one and only yellow in this race back in lap number 23, when Windmaster didn't really lift for a car that had pulled up in front of him and ushered him out of the way. So I think we're going to have to call Jaron Ross Chastain for the rest of the night, because he does not care if you're slow in front of him. He's running his race in line. He's going to move you out of the way. That is the racing that Darlington can inspire. And again, a single car spin, so no yellow. This race stays under green flag conditions, and here's Michael Johnson trying to make a move up and around the inside of Tom Wetmore. That's one spot back in Johnson's favor. Of course, he started this race at 4th, so still a little bit more work to do to get back up to where he started.
Wetmore making a small peek to the inside, not going to commit. I think just trying to fill the 39's mirrors, let him know, hey, I'm here and I'm waiting for you to make that mistake. But he's got to be careful. Thomas George right behind us. We're in a three-way scrap for that 7th position at the moment. And Thomas George, I think he's just waiting for these front two runners to try to take each other out. But now you can see Johnson starting to slowly but surely build that gap. Oh, never mind, he's not. Gets into the wall in turn 2. That'll let Tom Wetmore to snake up the inside, but not enough to actually be able to power home and take that spot back off of turn number 2 down the back straightaway. So Johnson's going to hang on for now. Luckily, it was not a hard scrape of the wall. Don't think he scratched the paint on his MRN number 39.
Yeah, that thing will buff. But there's two battles. There's 2 races going on here. There's the battle of your playoff drivers, and there's the battle of your non-playoff drivers. And right now, Thomas George, who I honestly thought should have and could have got into the playoffs with some of the runs that he's had. Think about Richmond. Was in a position to win. The 6 looked fast. He was very, very impressive across the board, and he just missed it. He just missed it at the end. It wasn't consistent enough throughout the season, but look at him now at one of the toughest racetracks on this service and in the whole world. You put any driver out here and they'd be like, oh man, 2 laps, your car totally changes. Everything changes about your line. And look at him. He's leading people that like Connor Horn, Cato, Lariah, Bowie. He's in front of these drivers that were in a position to make the playoffs or in a race-winning position. So good on Thomas George here in that Ford to just go out here, show up, and be consistent. And let's see, can he keep the string going? Can he stay up front? And how many of these playoff drivers is he going to upset by costing him points here?
He is the highest running of your non-playoff competitors right now in 9th position. He is flanked both all the way up in front and directly behind him by playoff cars. Nobody should be shocked by this. Thomas George, somebody who's made the playoffs on many occasions, a little bit short in his 2022 campaign. But Thomas George is always a threat to be a top 5, a top 10 car. And again, that means critical points going to be lost over the course of these next 10 weeks if those non-playoff drivers continue to show out. I mean, 35 cars, pretty good field for a playoff opener, where a week ago we just told 40 other drivers, hey, by the way, you can't fight for the championship anymore. So he and Wetmore are going to continue to battle in the fight for 9th and 10th spot. Longest green flag run of the afternoon in the works right now as we inch closer and closer to halfway home in this Elwood Designs Southern 500. Your race leader is still Kevin King, 54 laps led to his advantage. He is pulled away, guys. You can see it on the Kayla Synthetics leaderboard by about 9/10 of a second to Agno Phillip. So 20 laps ago, it looked kind of imminent that Agno Phillip was going to get the job done. King was able to weather the storm and now is comfortably, or as comfortably as you can be in Darlington, settled into the race lead.
I don't think you never really get too comfortable when it comes to Darlington. You more just get less tense. You just try to, you try to relax. You never really have all that much success, though. You see William Schmidt having to really seesaw on the steering wheel off of turn number 4 as he tries to run down Chris Rabel. He's currently sitting 13th place, trying to chase down 12. Just ahead in front of him, you've got Connor Horn and Michael O'Reilly still scrapping it out for 10th place as well. William Schmidt is the 3rd driver that is not on your playoff field. He is running 6.5 seconds behind race leader Kevin King at the moment. There has been a good chunk of drivers that have been split apart from the main grouping in this field now, and you see Michael Kuczynski down into pit road as well in his XPM Motorsports Tango number 30 Chevrolet. So Kuczynski, the first driver to take service. Terry, does this factor in with your tire math there?
It does, actually. It really does. I expect to see these drivers starting to come down in the next 5 laps. I don't think that Kuczynski coming down is really going to make them come down and pit earlier. I don't think Brandon Bowie's making them come down and pit earlier because they were further on in the mid-pack, and they're not going to gain they're going to gain a ton of time, but they're not going to gain a ton of time on Kevin King or Agno Phillip or even a Cody Harris at this moment. Your top 10 is pretty much safe unless somebody like Lariah comes down, Nick Silver if they came down. Then you start to think, okay, if you're Kevin King or one of those drivers in the top 5, I got to pit. Like, I got to come down now. I would say lap 70 would be my target number if I'm going to go pit, because you see things like that behind the 44. That's a thing that can happen here, and especially up there it is. 79 goes around. All of those people that just pitted, they're sitting ducks because they're trapped a lap down. They're gonna have to take the wave around. They've got 2-3 laps on their tires, and now you got the 79 around. William Schmidt, non-playoff driver, has shooken up the field. Multiple playoff drivers were on pit lane, Evan, at the time of the caution.
Not too long ago, we were talking about William Schmidt being the highest running of the non-playoff cars, but he started this race at 5th, and let's see what happened on his own. Old tires through turn 2, gets sideways, and look out, back up the hill, and a huge hit. He impacts both Grant Davis and Ross Cato. So a big hit to a playoff driver in Cato, who's going to get significant damage on his Fast Forward Esports Ford Mustang GT. That is huge, and we're about to find out just how consequential that pit cycle was, because the cars who had yet to come down to the pit lane, they're in right now for service.
There's the 4th car caught up in that. Grant Davis, who you have with damage. Ross Cato, though, in a bad situation now at this pit stop because he broke the left front tire in that impact. That's going to be a very lengthy repair. Cato might even lose a lap throughout this pit cycle here. He's going to have to really hope that he can get himself sorted to get back on track in a hurry if he wants to keep his hopes for a win here tonight at Darlington alive. Agnell Phillip still sitting in pit road, but it will be Kevin King to just beat him off. Phillips 2nd, and then you'll be having Harris 3rd, 6th, 4th, Danson 5th. You've still got playoff drivers all throughout the top 7 or so as they cycle off of pit road.
Depending on if this is actually going to be correct, Maltrek and Freenach stayed out, and look at this right here. Raleigh Grant Davis just runs right into the back there, had nowhere to go on the flat-out Motorsports Chevrolet. Not significant contact there, just enough to kind of wrinkle your feathers a tad bit, but okay. Freenach and Christian are going to come down. They're going to go to the back. I'm glad they didn't stay out, because this honestly would have caused pandemonium here. Old tires, new tires, trying to get around them. It would have been too wide. Tire spin's a thing when you go to get off on the restart here. Even though you're in the sim, your tires still pick up a ton of dirt around this track. You pick up a ton of that rubber that got laid down, and it sticks, and it changes the feel. It changes a ton of the feel of these cars, and especially in the next gen. For some reason, every time I went to go run 10 laps, I'd come pit, and then I would come out again, and I would just ride around very slow on the track, and then I'd try to gun it again, and it doesn't play well. You see the marbles on the top of the track, Evan? That's a thing. It's going to pick up here. These tires are hot. But by the way, track temp's going down, my friend. Sun's going down. This race is heating up, but the track temp's going down.
Yeah, we haven't talked much about that, but these drivers are going to get a nice look at the sun setting off it into turn number 3 as we get later and later into the afternoon here. There's an updated look at your track conditions, and just look at the front. Look at the left front wheel. Just the huge damage that Ross Cato takes in that one. Kamer gets tagged. Of course, Grant Davis, there's how he impacts it as well. But I think most of all, that will affect the 12 of Davis. And, of course, Malcherik coming down to the pit lane, not able to steal a bonus point. But Christian doing his best, guys, in his part-time campaign here with the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series. The driver for Parabellum Racing Team out of Bratislava, Slovakia. Just this past week, Christian finished inside of the top 10 in the Euro NASCAR 2 race in the Czech Republic. And of course, staying up at some odd hours to race with us here in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series playoffs. No surprise either, William Schmidt claiming responsibility for the incident there, so he'll get the end of the longest line of penalty, get sent to the rear. Not that there's many drivers behind him already. The extensive repairs going to continue on pit road for Ross Cato, so it appears that his night may just be done given that most recent impact. So we'll reset with 115 laps to go, guys. We are not halfway yet, and almost everybody in the field has used up half of their available tires. See how they continue to be responsible with them. Barney awaits as the pace car dives down to the safety of pit road. Kevin King to select the inside as we look towards the Geico race start zone. Phillip on the outside. Green flag back in the air.
Green flag waves, fanning out double file into turn number 1 as we hit the racetrack once more. Already singling it out for the top 5. Matt Danson wins out over Tom Wetmore. Rabel still fighting with George deeper in the field as well as they race off into turn number 3. And already getting themselves nice and orderly here. I love to see this though at the Darlington Raceway when these guys have the sense to recognize when to fight and when it's maybe not a good idea. It's honestly something that I have had a hard time finding so far when it comes to some of the races I've seen on iRacing. Great to see that this RSR field still showing why they are some of the best oval races in the business.
They are absolutely some of the best racers here in the business. I actually said it on Twitter earlier this week when David Schildhouse said he was looking for a league to race in. Well, why not come race here on Monday nights? You want some competition that's unlike any other. You want to bring some eyes to RSR because there's drivers in here who are just absolutely amazing as the 17 comes down pit lane for an unscheduled pit stop. Hopefully he unchecked those tires because you don't want to take your second to last set this early because you're not going to want to pit again until you get to about, I would say about 135 to about 140. You want to go as long as possible on these tires. Go all the way to the end until you get to the back of these tire sets. But look at Brandon 6 starting to fall off again. He came up the track. He came up the track a tad bit, and then he's fallen back. So Cody Harris going back to P3, and Acto Phillip, race leader for the first time tonight.
Yep, new race leader on the outside in turns 3 and 4. Agnew Phillip made it look pretty easy, making the pass on the dominant car of the afternoon, Kevin King. And now Agnew Phillip is checking out as he has been able to get back up front after starting this race from pole position. Danson trying to find where he fits into all of this. He'll find a spot 7th in line. He's up 8 positions, but your biggest mover is directly in front of him. Tom Wetmore still on the cusp of a top 5 spot in P6. Wetmore plus 13 positions from where he started this race earlier.
Working the outside line is David Cobb. He's just worked his way back into the top 10 around the outside of Thomas George. And is now looking to pick off Chris Rabel as well. That's a really shallow entry from Matt Danson, all things considered. That stacked up the back portion of this field and allowed Tom Wetmore and the others to break away a little bit. It's those types of mistakes that broke up this field the first time around, but it did take a little while. For the meantime, though, they continue to run nose to tail. It's only going to take that one driver, though, to make that one move that might not work. How about Wetmore picking up 1, make it almost 2? It is going to be 2 off of turn number 4 with 6 trying to squeeze him in.
My goodness, who woke the 51 up? Who woke the 94 up too? The 94 shot out there, and then for a second he was up to 8/10 of a second, and now it's starting to reel it back in a tad bit, but holy crap. 51 jumps to the outside. You talked about who was going to make that bold move. Who was going to make the move to separate these packs, to make everybody get racier. Now you see the 38 of Danson working Brandon 6 over down there on the bottom, trying to create some separation. This is going to be the biggest key at the tail end of this race. We have not seen a green flag pit stop yet. I hope we do, because I want to see how these drivers tackle pit road on old tires, how they get down there on the bottom, how they get to their pit stall, because that's what champions are made of. Can one of these championship drivers that are sitting in the top 7, top 10 at the moment, with Michael Johnson being right there on the cusp of being outside the top 10 and 9th, who's going to make that championship move? Who's going to come in and nail a pit stop in the crunch time of this race? The money stop could happen as now the 51 gets past there, but Brandon 6 back on the outside.
The more I look at these numbers on tires, I'm getting a little bit nervous. These drivers need to average about 50 laps on them. Is slow off of turn number 2. Is that Sean Casto? No, it's Brandon Fetterplace. There's a lot of orange and red race cars through the field. Looks like it was Fetterplace. It was maybe slow, not Casto. who's in a similar car, and it was Fetter Place. He got into the outside wall in turns 1 and 2 while battling with playoff driver Andrew Freenash. So there was contact between those two. Fetter Place straightened it out on the fence. He's got the Tony Stewart throwback look with the Home Depot on his Toyota Camry here tonight. But it is not going to be a better place for Fetter Place as he loses a handful of positions after this bit of contact.
That's good. Ooh. Oh, yeah, got tipped by Andrew Freenash, and that sent the 20 up into the outside wall, so that's less than pleasant there. I think that was a little bit more of a contact than we were both expecting, but I think that really does tell the story right there. Phillips still with a multiple car length gap. Meanwhile, single file from second place all the way back to 16th in this field.
Interesting that you brought up how long they have to go on the tires. They've got to go about 55 laps apiece on those tires from the time that they pitted, and actually more than that because they pitted on lap 66. We didn't take the green flag until they had about, at that moment would have been lap 68. So if you'd called it that way, they still got to go 50 plus laps on these tires. It's somewhere around 58, 59 laps. They got to go to finish this. So they got to take these tires and go. And then they're going to have to go. They could maybe stretch it a little bit shorter because they got 2 sets left in the pit box. But you don't want to take that last set of tires just in case we get a green-white checkered. I'm looking, if we get an early enough caution, Evan, that if you're one of these drivers that's not a playoff contender, like what we saw with Eric Jones yesterday winning the race, if one of these drivers like Cobb, who we saw spinning a little earlier, a George, a Rabel, a Winemaster, who's not afraid to put the bumper to somebody and to move you around, he doesn't care. Stay out. Stay out, save that set of tires. Make everybody else use them because they're going to pit again. And then keep those in your pit box until, we get a green-white checkered. And either way, what do you got to lose? What do you got to lose? You're not a playoff driver. You're just out here racing for a win. You're trophy hunting.
A bit of a conservative move by Tom Wetmore there. Danson had just made the pass on Cody Harris, and it looked like Wetmore was thinking about forcing the issue, but figured turn 2 gets a little bit tight, maybe not the best idea, laid it back, so Wetmore will stay in the number 6 spot. Again, that's the highest we've seen him all afternoon, and Harris will occupy the final spot at the top 5. Still, of your top 9 cars, 8 of them playoff drivers. They are heavily weighted towards the front of the field. You take a look back here, the 44 car, Michael Orion 14th, ahead of Connor Horn and company, so that's another duo of playoff cars right there in 14th and 15th position. And Andrew Freenash, guys, has been awfully quiet for being the defending fall race winner here at Darlington. Well, there he is, just off of his contact with Fetter Place a couple of laps ago. Freenash up to 17th position, still struggling though relatively. Of your playoff cars, he's the 5th lowest in the running order.
And that last lap alone, Freenash ran 0.2 of a second slower than San Nieto, who was the first driver just up the road, and Nieto was also in traffic, so Freenash really struggling on pace here at the moment. You have to wonder if maybe he's still struggling some of that damage he got from earlier on that number 88 car. Whatever the issue is going on, though, hope it's going to get that sorted out before the end of this race on one of our future pit stops. We continue to work our way through this race, looking at everybody running up on that outside line as one by one, drivers continue to slowly take these laps away. You see the lights slowly growing dimmer. Won't be long before those lights start to flick on over the lady in black.
And that's honestly when drivers say it's go time. The moment you start to see a race, the sun sinks down, the lights come on, it gets into full darkness over the racetrack, you know that the race is coming close to an end. These drivers are not crazy. You see right now, it is almost a 2-second lead for Agno Phillip over Kevin King, and that's something we haven't seen. We haven't seen a driver get that far out. And now Kevin King, he's fell off a little bit. The track changing conditions have fell off quite a bit because the track temp lowered. There's a little bit more grip in the speedway. Just a little less out of the driver's hands, if you could say that here. You're still having to fight the wheel, but it's kind of lit the fuse for a Brandon Six who's up 11 positions, a Matt Danson who's up 11 positions. Wetmore's up 13, David Kalm is up 14. It's not what you normally say at Darlington, that drivers have made multiple digit positions of drivers who did not start in the top 10. They're definitely mainstay players in the top 10 here now.
They have settled in quite comfortably, 6 included in that group as he continues to try to chase down Kevin King. Guys, so impressed with what Agnell Phillip has been able to do on this run in specific, right? Struggled early, lost the race lead from pole on lap number 1, and then hung out. But I mean, when he got around Kevin King off of the restart, he took off, and I was kind of waiting for the the issues that we saw earlier in the race when we saw similar things out of guys like King and out of guys like Nieto, right? They push really aggressively, they're hard out of the gate, and then they kind of fall back. I mean, Agnell is continuing to pull away 20 some odd laps off of the restart. He is now 2 seconds clear of the next closest driver. That is the biggest advantage for the race lead we have seen so far tonight in this Elwood Design Southern 500. Closed it in on halfway home.
King has lost 2 seconds to your race leaders, and he's now broken away in a pack of 3 for second, third, and fourth, with Danson and Brandon 6 also in the mix as he continues to try to work his way around this racetrack. Agnell Phillip has been consistently faster than these guys. In fact, last lap, quarter second faster. Phillip has found all the speed he needs. I think he has realized he can't afford to be taking it easy on the start of these runs. He's got to be the one to push that gap and then control the race pace once these tires all start to drop off for everybody around this field. Round to lap 92 is halfway this time by at the line.
It's super intriguing to see lap times at Darlington, and I think many people know that's ever worked with me on a broadcast knows that my favorite thing to do is to turn over to my right monitor and look at my timing screen. Because when you see these drivers come through here, as Sam Nieto's on pit lane here, interesting move on his part. But when you see him start to come across the line, and right there, that time by Kevin King was the fastest driver on the racetrack at the time. So you see here that 30.78 to a 30.81. While that doesn't seem like a big difference, that Kalis Synthetics leaderboard showing you the difference. He's clicking off time. So Agnell Phillip drove the heat into those tires, rubbed the good off of them. He's much better in turns 3 and 4, but turns 1 and 2, Kevin King's able to really roll that corner, able to arc it as much as possible. He starts on the bottom, slides up there, and look at that board. Starts to drop. It goes to 1.8 and then gains off the exit. So this is a fun little time here in the latter part of this race.
And now we are officially past halfway home and counting down to the end. 90 laps to go from Darlington. This time by Harris and Silver. They'll go side by side off of turn 4. It is the 4 of Silver on the bottom. The Challenger not getting it up into 1. There's contact between the two of them, and forcing his way through is the 4 of Nick Silver.
Great car control, though, from the both of them to make sure that was a clean rub, if that makes any sense. They both get out of the outside wall. Silver managed to get it off of the 28 in time. It didn't run the 28 into the wall, but Harris managed to jam on the binders enough that he was also able to keep it off the outside wall himself. You had seen Tom Wetmore try to snake around. That did not end up happening, and now Michael Johnson wants a piece of that as well. Johnson was under fire by David Kolb 1 lap ago. Michael Johnson is under some heavy pressure right now to get up and around Tom Wetmore in a hurry to put one more car between himself and that number 11.
Yeah, a lot of these drivers saved their tires for a little bit later in this. Thomas George has been very, very fast. George is running a 31, I believe it's a 31.2 that he's run across their drivers in front of him, running 34 4s, 31 6s. There's a mixed bag of who saved their tires and who burned them up in the early portion of the run, but no surprise on my end to see Thomas George and David Kolb being the two drivers that are leading the pack of the non-playoff drivers, and they were right there. They were in position when it mattered most to be into the playoffs, but luck was never on their side this season. They would have a good run, and then the next week they would have an awful run. They would have 2 good runs in a row, and then they'd have a couple DNFs, and it just never really worked for them. But it's creeping up here. We got about 30 more laps to go before I would expect a driver to come down pit lane.
And as we wait on that pit cycle, if we can see our first green flag cycle of the night, let's take a look top to bottom at your Kalis Synthetics midway race break presented by Elwood Designs. Halfway through, and Agnew Phillip has led the last 27 laps of this race. That's after starting from pole position, but it's the first time he has had sole possession of the race lead. But his race lead is starting to trim down to 1.2 seconds. It was over 2 no more than 10 laps to go. Kevin King has led the most laps of the afternoon. He rides in second spot ahead of this battle. Brandon 6th and 3rd, and Matt Danson in 4th, both fighting to gain some track position and to begin the conversation should there be another late race restart. Nick Silver is going to be just behind them. He starts off a long chain of cars as he sits in the number 5 spot ahead of Cody Harris in P6, Tom Wetmore in 7th, and Michael Johnson in 8th. Those are all playoff drivers, and a couple of drivers not in that championship hunt, including David DeKalb, who's done a good job, guys, from bouncing back from an incident. He's 9th, and Olin Thomas George rounds out your top 10.
Jaron Weimaster is the first driver back and on the offensive in 11th place, but trying to keep a lap car behind him at the moment at the same time. Chris Rabel and Connor Horn are in a scrap for 12th and 13th, as Connor Horn will now make up 14 positions after he started 26th, and among that big chunk of the field that did not qualify for tonight's race. Michael Arias sits in 14th place. Kyle Kamer worked his way up to 15th from 28th. He has since then gotten stuck, though, and has not been able to make his way up any further, with the likes of Andrew Friedosh after his earlier incidents still sitting down in 16th place, hoping for another yellow so he can get whatever issues he's got going on in the Battle Beaver number 88 car figured out so he can work his way up to the end of this race. Minazzi Major is running in 17th place. Brandon Fenner place is down at 18th. Grant Davis is 19th, and over 20 seconds off your race leader, Rhett McBride is down in 20th, Terry.
Yeah, Tom Morano coming off his best finish of the season in P3 last week at Daytona, rides in 21st. Brandon Bowie 22nd. Brian Chambliss hadn't had the run that we thought he would have here this afternoon, is in 23rd. William Schmidt, good qualifying run, 24th. Sam Nieto missed pit box, had some issue there. Big issue across the board. Christian Malchek came down pit lane. He's 26th. Eric Papineau 27th. Sean Casto, Brad Fulham, and Ross Cato rounds out your top 30.
And continuing on down the list, drivers laps down. William Schmidt is down 1, so that's the, I should say 31st position. Mike Kaczynski out of this race, but still on track. He's sitting on pit road, but I think his night, for all intents and purposes, is done. Joseph Tice has gone to the garage. So has Eric Stanford. So has Garrett Hess, and Gary Sexton was never able to take to the green flying tonight. So that is 5 drivers, for all intents and purposes, out of this race. That leaves us with a healthy number of 30 to race this one out for the final 80. That's a look top to bottom at your Kalis Synthetics midway race break. Kalis Synthetics is an independent dealer of Amsoil lubricants serving the United States and Canada, providing custom engine lubrication solutions to all types of customers, from private individuals to race teams, hauling fleets, and everything in between. They have the products and expertise to help you save time and money. Dealer number 300718115. And of course, coverage of tonight's race also brought to you by Elwood Designs. Serving the iRacing community since 2012, Elwood Designs has you covered for everything from logos, numbers, and custom paint schemes. For more information, you can check them out at twitter.com/Elwood Designs and get your free quote today. Still closing into the end as we wait to crown the winner of this Elwood Designs Southern 500, the opening race of the playoffs for this 2022 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. Myself, Evan Pasoko, alongside with Nolan Rempel and Terry Radford at the RaceSpotTV booth. Our director tonight is Hugo Luis. Guys, to this point in the race, we have had 2 yellows that have led to 2 complete pit cycles. We have yet to see green flag stops tonight. And what we're seeing right now is Kevin King charging, wanting to take his race lead back. 40 laps since we were just on pit road.
Agno Phillips' pace has been gradually dropping off lap after lap, and in fact, Kevin King has been consistently at least a tenth and a half quicker, if not up to a quarter of a second for about the last 10 to 15 laps consistently. He has been reeling that gap in time and time again, and now sitting just under 0.4 of a second behind Agno Phillip. But as we've established before in this race, catching is one thing, passing is very much another. This is what Agno Phillip was looking for, right? He wanted to build that gap up, need as many laps as he could, and be able to get himself down to a place where he can control that pace. Brandon 6 getting up and close and personal with the outside wall and nearly running into Matt Danson. That allows Nick Silver to get through as 6 gets unsettled off of 4. Tires really started to fall away. I'm feeling pit stops. They're not too far off either.
I'm pitting in 6 laps. That's when I'm coming down. If I'm one of these drivers, I don't think a caution's going to come out. And if it does, unfortunately, I take the blame for it here at RaceSpot. But I don't see a caution coming out. I see the track is getting a lot more grippy. It's getting a lot more fun. Less slide of the rear. Drivers are really able to attack. I'm pitting with 70 to go. That sets you up that if anything happens, and you know it will, come in there with about 20 to go, you come down pit lane, you can go as hard as you want. It'll set them up for a very short run. But hey, by the way, that's Andrew Freenosh back there in 16th. That's caught the back bumper of Thomas George. Crack his way after having some issues up a ton of positions here.
Even when he struggles a little bit and doesn't have that dominant speed, he is somebody who is going to work and work away, and it's the first time he has been a permanent fixture on the top 16 portion of that Kayla Synthetics leaderboard, and he's looking for more now, making a move to the inside of George. Not going to be able to get there before they go off to 1 and 2, and that's the patience and the methodical approach of Andrew Freenosh. Somebody else who is a little bit more aggressive or desperate may have thrown it into that move, but Freenosh had a bit of a run, didn't get alongside, said, all right, I'll wait and try it again on the next time through. And that's why he has gone from at one point being the second lowest of the playoff cars to now the 5th lowest. Again, that is still work to do for him. There's a long way to go in this race. A lot can happen in the 73 laps that are left on the board, and he is within a second of both Thomas George and Kyle Kamer in front of him. So plenty of opportunities. Here's a move to the inside off of turn number 2. He set that one up well. Down the Boeing backstretch, they'll be nose to nose into 3, and Thomas George will yield. Freenosh cracking the top 15 now for the first time.
Freenosh finally getting up and by the Sirius XM for Mustang. Next driver up, Kyle Kamer up the road. Not a playoff driver that Freenosh is going to have to worry about. The closest driver that would be for playoff positions in this field would be Michael Araya. But Lariah, several seconds up the road still. A bit of a bobble from Kamer will give Freenosh a run. But here you can see Cody Harris under fire from Tom Wetmore. This is for 7th place as the 28 car works on 4. Whoa, big bobble for Wetmore sliding out.
Hang on
to it, trying, locking the brakes down. And that's a beautiful save for Wetmore.
What a save, Roadhouse Motorsports 51. Tom Wetmore's a wheel man. That right there, that's how you drive that sucker. When I said this thing was getting grippy, it's getting grippy. Pit, I'm telling you, lap with 70 to go, you can split this in half, 35 apiece. You put a lot of time on these tires. You put a lot of effort. There's a lot of heat. The good's gone. you got him while the getting was good. Now the good's gone. It's time to come down pit road, split this in half, 35-35, or you could wait 10 more laps. If you can hang on for 10 more laps, pit with 60 to go, split at 30-30. Both sets of tires are gone. Fuel will be there. I would expect a caution at some point before the race is over, but not in an imminent time. The 51 almost brought it out, but man, what a save.
And there's a live look at your standings of the bottom half of this round of 16. And you can see, of course, Bradley Burke not competing tonight, stuck at the 2,000 points that he started this round with. All your playoff cars are still in this race. Cato's several laps down, that hurts him. But right now on the bubble, Freenosh's persistence has put him way up, guys. Tom Wetmore finds himself safe to the tune of 11 points. And it's very clear the moves need to happen if you're Bowie, Casto, and Cato, and it's no shock that those are the drivers 25, 28, and 29 on the racetrack.
Darlington continuing to keep Egno Phillip at bay now as Kevin King has gotten up and by the number 94 and is now going to start to once more log laps. Meanwhile, that pit window continues to loom. We're at that point where almost everybody in this field has gotten about 49 laps now on those stints, the number that Terry predicted earlier on in this race. King made the move off of turn number 4 down the front straightaway into turn 1 on lap 116, coming to 117. And now looks like he's already going to be starting to pull away as Egno Phillip struggling to keep pace with him.
Man, I'm telling you, these tires are hollering like a goat. You don't want to tear them up. You see the 31 and the 94 sliding off the exit of the corners here. There's going to come a time that you're not going to be able to save that anymore. There's a time that you're really going to blister something. You're going to blister the back end. You're going to hit the wall. Something's going to happen. Now, not saying that the wall is not going to help you a ton here. You know, it's like a dirt track. You heard it on the broadcast last night. You see a lot of drivers who are very good at dirt normally excel here at Darlington because they're able to slide it, they're able to run the wall, they're really able to change their line progressively throughout the race on where the fast parts are. It's just like trying to find the slick and trying to run the cushion. There's always a way to be better, and that brought Kevin King to the top. He knows how to work this car, he knows how to work the tires and the track itself, but I'm telling you, you could split this perfectly in half, and if you're some of these drivers, David Cobb comes down, that's a domino to fall. He could jump a couple positions here as he comes down pit lane, one of the first drivers inside the top 10 to come down pit lane here.
It's a big move for Cobb. He's a non-playoff driver, so he can afford to be a little bit more aggressive going for the undercut, and it is no doubt going to be 4 tires and a fuel. That's a long run, though, 65 laps to get to the end of this race. These drivers have been out there 54 laps since they last pitted. He's high on the RPM, so he clearly has no concerns about saving fuel, and he is off and away for what he hopes may be his final pit stop of the afternoon. I still think you got to win another 5 laps or so before we'll see a lot of those playoff drivers in the top 10, in the top 15 start to come to pit road, guys. But Wetmore gave up a lot of very critical spots, and now right now Matt Danson is dropping down the scoring pylon. He thought maybe he was coming to pit road, but he just lost a bunch of spots in 3 and 4. It was an aggressive pass by Nick Silver, and those 3 cars in front of him teamed up on him. Danson drops to P6 just like that.
Once again, the cause of that freight train, loose moment. That one was off of turn number 2. You see Morano quickly scramble to the inside lane. He wants no part in all of that battle going up on the racetrack. Danson, though, will be coming to pit road this time by, looking to undercut his competitors. And you might notice a lot of the drivers really taking a much wider arc into pit road. You might wonder, well, why don't they just go ahead and just hug that inside wall all the way around? It would make sense, but that pit entry, it is a lot tighter than you think, and that wall actually conceals a good bit of where pit road actually is. Can't count the number of times I've seen people get black flags for unsafe pit entries for overshooting the iRacing's commitment cone there and flying back in as a result because they were entering way too tight. You have to enter wide. That's how Darlington works. It's very counterintuitive racetrack. I mean, you don't often get these types of situations at any racetrack. It's what makes Darlington so fun, though, whether you're pitting in, pitting out, or somewhere in the middle on one of these long green flag runs.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to race at this track on the iRacing platform, and it's an absolute pleasure to call a race here at Darlington. This is my first ever, I said it on Twitter earlier, this was my first ever big race, big break that I got to call was with Evan Pasoko in the Retro 500 qualifying race, and it's so amazing when you get to see the talent that comes out here at Darlington because it brings the racer out of you. It makes you hustle the car. It makes you respect the track. There is no other place on the surface that you have to respect more than the lady in black. And I like what some of these drivers are doing. Coming down pit lane just a couple laps earlier here. David Cobb coming in there. He's almost 2 seconds faster than the field. And that's how much these tires are going to make up here. And he's passing people left and right, doing everything the right way that he needs to do. Manazzi Major comes down pit lane here. Cody Harris works up past Nick Silver to the P4 position. But Evan, this is going to get crazy if these drivers don't control it, because if a caution comes out, all that strategy you just thought of, it's not existent anymore.
And that might be what is scaring maybe some of your race leaders from being one of the first to come in, right? Is we saw it nearly happen to a bunch of drivers on a yellow earlier in this race.
Yeah.
You're going to spend 50 seconds on pit road. You're going to lose your lead lap status. But Agnell Phillip has come down pit road. He will give up the number 2 position as Kevin King, of course, was able to close the gap, cycle through to the race lead. Agnell Phillip, slow on the long end, has come in. Connor Horn is down. Andrew Freenosh, Tom Wetmore, right on the money. They pitted 59 laps ago. There are 58 laps left in this race, and now it comes down to executing cleanly in and out of pit road. A lot of time to be made and lost.
Race leader Agnell Phillip, or former race leader and pole sitter Agnell Phillip, is into pit road, trying to see if he can get out of the box quickly. 14.9 seconds. That's a decent start there for the number 94 851 Pro Chevrolet. Waiting on Kevin King, guaranteed. Phillip was trying to go for the undercut, hoping to make up some time and come back out in front of the team Chevrolet, who is, you can see, really struggling off of turn number 4, about to be actually unlapped by Manazzi Major, who is on that fresh rubber. He's going to sneak to the inside. You can see already pulling away while Kevin King is fishtailing slightly through turns 1 and 2. You got cars racing in pit road. This is a treacherous spot as there's another loose moment. He's got to come to pit road or he risks losing so much time.
Does he come down here? Yes, he will. Kevin King's gonna. Oh no! Oh my gosh! Kevin King, stop playing with my heart. That's not funny, my man. Don't do that to us. We'll see. Cody Harris is going to stay out there, get a point for a lap led. So that's an important note for him for his playoff bid. But I'm not surprised to see a couple of those drivers, like a Brandon Six, like a Johnson, like a Harris, stay out a little further. Pray for the caution. You know, you kind of can feel it a little bit in the air, a little Phil Collins going on in the background, that maybe somebody's telling you, hey, there's a couple drivers that are starting to get squirrely off the exit of 4 or the exit of 2. There's, you know, drivers who are running 29.6s that are catching a driver running a 32.1. That could be a possibility, but we'll see this pit stop there. Agnell Phillip had a 14.9 pit stop. The way it's going to go, Phillip doesn't care. He's gone. So now, Kevin King, 14.6. 0.3 of a second faster on pit lane for Kevin King, but it's not going to matter because he made up almost 6 seconds on the racetrack. Agnell Phillip is going to hold this lead by a ton here.
And I think a lot of that time, not only, of course, Phillip going for the undercut, right, getting the fresher tires sooners, but what the pit deltas is not going to measure is that near spin, right? That was time that Kevin King lost when he got a little bit loose, had to lock up the brakes to straighten that race car out. That was overall time lost. Other than that, extremely consistent, guys. Agnell Phillip, 48.1 on pit road. Kevin King, 48.2. Horn, 48.0. Rabel, 48.1. I mean, extremely consistent through the field. But that mistake on the entry is what may have hurt him the most. Cody Harris will bow out as he comes in from the number 2 position now. That's going to hand things off to Michael Johnson, who's going to get his first big bonus point of the afternoon. Before this pit cycle really kicked off, Johnson's number 39 was running pretty quietly inside of a top 5 position, and now the driver out of Garner, Kentucky has got his bonus point. I would expect him to bring his Mara Racing Network Ford Mustang down pit road sooner rather than later, because look at Kevin King, fresh tires versus old tires, and that's a good visual as to how much time you are losing every single lap by staying out.
King, you can still see struggling to hang on to whatever time he can. At the moment, he has been not having a very fun time of things out there at all. Michael Johnson, his last several laps have been in the high 31s to mid 32s. As opposed to that, the driver that is trying to run it down, Agnell Phillip, has been running high 29s to low 30s. Phillip has been running almost 2 seconds a lap quicker consistently. Michael Johnson is in a very bad place. He is hoping for a caution right now so that he's going to be able to come on down to pit road and not lose so much time. But at this moment, he has committed to that overcut strategy. It's too late to back out by now.
It's way too late. You're kind of in a box. You're stuck where you're sitting. But I'm sitting here watching this Delta. The overall race leader, who is right now the overall race leader once everything cycles through, barring any mishaps, that's Matt Danson at 38 machine, pitted on lap 123, 3 laps earlier than Agnell Phillip. That would be your race leader once everything cycles through, and he's got Agnell Phillip right on his back bumper. They just got around Sam Nieto there, but yeah, that is him. That would be the guy in that 38 very colorful Logitech machine. If he can hold this off, this is a big win, but a little bit's going to have to happen. You're going to have to not catch traffic where you just did, as now the battle is going to go on here for P6, as Agnell Phillip is actually going to use a slower machine. I believe that's Casto to hold him off in the 52. That's a slick move. I need to pull that at Kansas this week.
Pulling out all the stops here at the track. Too tough to tame, as it is now basically a full-on night race. The lights are on. The sun is almost completely behind those iconic grandstands that sit some 40+ thousand race fans. And we are about complete on our final pit cycle for the evening. Still waiting on your top 4 drivers to come down to the pit lane. Make it now top 4 or 5 as Thomas George starts to get passed by some of the cars who have recently pitted. Agnell Phillip, your net race leader, sits in the number 4 position right now, ahead of Danson. Danson, one who really made up time, guys, pitted 4 laps earlier than Agnell Phillip. So Agnell Phillip's been able to pass him around, and I just wonder, Kevin King, you know, he was good on pit road, he was good in the box, and I wasn't too surprised, Nolan, when I saw the gap between those two off of pit road. I was expecting it, but I wasn't expecting it to stay at 5 to 6 seconds for this long. All these cars in between them not helping either, but Kevin King needs to push the issue, I think, a little bit here.
I absolutely agree. I mean, he has got to start really pushing things if he wants to find his way up at the front of this thing. So Kevin King not going to be having a fun time with things. He's going to look to the inside of that 52 car and find his way to break through. He is now going to move himself up that one more spot, overtaking Thomas George, and now that will have been a spot for another position on the racetrack as he continues to work his way up through this top 10. Kevin King on a strong run so far, but Agnell Phillip still 6 seconds up the road over a whole straightaway away. Kevin King might just find himself running out of time as Phillip moves up to 3rd past Kyle Kamer.
I'm sitting here watching this Scala synthetic leaderboard here. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm kind of getting nervous if I'm Michael Johnson or if I'm Brandon Six, who's currently sitting here 1 and 2. Have not pitted yet. I know Kyle Kamer, he's sitting back there just kind of doing his own thing. He has nothing to lose. Thomas George has nothing to lose. But if you're Michael Johnson, you're Brandon Six, I get it. I get that you want to try to flip this race. You want to try to flip this strategy, because if the caution comes out, you're going to pit. Everybody else might not. And if they do, their tires are done. They have no more tires left in the pits if they do. But you can't stay out this late. This is well further past. And here comes Michael Johnson. What's Brandon Six going to do? I think Brandon Six is going to stay on this racetrack. He's going to take this lead. So Brandon Six is actually going to continue to play this strategy and hope that the yellow flag does come out, because then puts him in the catbird seat to drive through this field and maybe potentially pull out a very sneaky under the radar win for who's been one of the best drivers of the season.
Yeah, Six, somebody who I'm really surprised with as he now comes to pit road, because, you know, he's going to go way late. He gets a bonus point. I mean, that's big. Maybe that was the goal all along, but at what cost, right? How many positions and how many seconds was it worth to stay out longer than anybody else, to get that one bonus point. So we'll see if this plays out in his advantage. Of course, now he doesn't want a yellow. He's going to need this thing to go green. He's going to need to be able to use these better tires that are going to be 20 plus laps better than other drivers who he was racing against before this pit cycle started. He's going to be a lap behind them, and he is going to need to drive the tires off that race car if he wants to make up for everything he gave up. But in the end, a bonus point was secured. We'll see if that was worth it in the long run. The 8 machine slow on the inside. Kyle Kamer from 8th position going to come down pit road for SK Sim Racing. Brandon 6 now exiting the pit lane, and that will complete your pit cycle with the exception of Sean Casto in 28th. A couple of laps down, been stuck down there for a majority of this evening after getting damage earlier in the race. He is the only driver who is yet to pit. Everybody else can get to the end, and now we can start paying more and more attention to who's running where and what those intervals are on that Kayla Synthetics leaderboard, because Agnew Phillip 3 seconds ahead of Matt Danson, and a very critical battle for second place, guys, about to unfold, because there's no doubt that Kevin King is faster than Matt Danson. He's got about 7 lap better tires, but for Agnew Phillip's sake, he's hoping that Danson's going to make it difficult on the 31.
Silver gets up and by Chris Rabel in the fight for 6th place on the racetrack. Connor Horn right up the road from them and losing significant time in his own right. Nick Silver's about to break back up into the top 5 as we crack that 40 laps to go barrier. Still have 13 cars all on the lead lap, and now your playoff drivers, where we once had all of them running in the top 10 and beyond, have been very much split up throughout the entirety of this field. You've still got Matt Danson running at the tail end of your top 3-4 seconds behind race leader Agnew Phillip, capping off a playoff driver 1, 2, 3, followed by 5 and 6 with David Kolb in the middle, not as a playoff contender, but the highest driver up out. Despite that, he is 5.5 seconds back from Matt Danson. Danson in his own right, he is struggling to keep a lap car at bay right behind him.
I want to give an attaboy to David Kolb and to Connor Horn. Connor Horn not putting a time down in qualifying, but sitting here in P5. That's very impressive, and I mean very impressive. And it looks like he's about to make this pass here on the 11 of Kolb. For a track that you go into and you go, man, track position's so huge. To see Connor Horn, you talked about it, Evan. Big, oh no, oh, hold on to her. They don't want the caution, neither do I. I want to see this go out. Oh, good save, Kolb. Good save, man. But for Horn, you said big time players show up in big time moments. This is a big time player at a big time moment. And now he's going to have the 66 sprint and 6 behind him. Well, fresher tires, and you're going to see that. You're about to see that going into 1, where one's going to be able to drive in there very deep. But Connor Horn, this is an impressive run, and this could be the momentum he needs to carry him into the playoffs.
It very well could be, and poor David Kolb has had about the 3rd heart attack tonight, chipping into his 9 lives as he's able to hang on to it, loses a couple of positions. That's a big gain for Connor Horn, Nick Silver, and Chris Rabel, who are the drivers. They're able to pass him, and a consequential battle for second between King and Danson came and went without much fanfare. A pretty easy move for Kevin King, and now we wait to see what happens with all those drivers highlighted in red. Nick Silver, a top 5 car. He has got some of the older tires, though, amongst this group. He's not likely to make any charges beyond maybe Connor Horn directly in front. These two are almost exactly even on tires. Silver pitted only 1 lap after Connor Horn did, so a slight advantage in favor of the 4. And I think these two would be very content if they only have to deal with fighting against each other for the rest of this race. They are both primed to walk out of Darlington with a lot of really good points, as the battle for 1st and 2nd is under 2 seconds. Just keep an eye on that as we watch these two race.
Kevin King's been slowly reeling it. Agnew Phillip will keep one eye on that. Silver trying to go for the diamond on Connor Horn. Not going to close up all that much, though, down that front straightaway. And in fact, Silver lost about 0.5 tenth that last lap by. So as Silver continues to work his way around. The driver out of Santa Maria, California, going to continue to work on closing in that number 67 Bernie Lyddicks Chevrolet. It's not been an easy run for Nick Silver today, but he has certainly been making the most of it as he has been running in the top 5 consistently. But how about Connor Horn? He did not qualify. He's also been a very consistent top 10 runner, currently in his highest position of the race outside of the pit stops, obviously running in 4th place. While he might be a little ways behind, that's certainly not bad considering where he started all those laps ago.
Yeah, this has been an impressive run for a lot of drivers. I mean, Andrew Freenage, wasn't we talking about him not too long ago being well off the pace? Well, he's in P11 right now, and that should tell you something. That should tell you that drivers don't have to be good all the way around. You don't have to be, I mean, you do have to put together a perfect race, but you don't have to be strong in all phases. And this track has seen a massive shift. We've seen it come from nothing. Oh, there it is, 11:24 around. That's Grant Davis and Cobb. Is that going to bring the caution out? No. Caution stays in the flag pocket. They were off the racing surface. They were not disturbing anybody, but that's called again off the exit of turn 4. Looks like, oh, 2. Yeah, oh, that is 4. They come off the corner in the 24. He pounds the wall there in the 11. Once again, you said chipping into those 9 lives. Well, he chipped in. I think that's number 4, number 4 that he's chipped in.
At least 4. At least
4.
Yeah, he's flirting with fire there, and a tough break for David DeKalb. He has been so fast tonight, but this is a racetrack where, again, driver versus track is a huge challenge in its own right. It was unfortunate for David, and even more unfortunate for Grant Davis, who had nothing to do with where all of that started, was simply just trying to pass him at the wrong place at the wrong time. And Grant Davis gets the, I think, most significant damage in all of that because he made a pretty heavy impact with the front wall, and he has brought that car to pit road, whereas David DeKalb has been able to stay out. You can see Kalb right there getting passed up by the 15 machine. Up and around the inside for Rhett McBride, a lap down in 16th position. Only 12 cars still on the lead lap as this green flag run that we're currently working under closes in on 100 laps long. And talking about closing in the battle for the race lead down to 0.7 of a second. I thought that King guys may have been slowed up, right? 5-6 seconds back. Thought that some of the lap traffic that got in between him and Phillip was going to be a difference maker, and said that he really had to be aggressive, and Kevin King was able to navigate those cars successfully, and things are not looking good if this race stays green for Agnew Phillip, because Kevin King is the best car on track right now.
That gap down to half a second, and it was another 10th loss for Agnew Phillip that last lap by. You've got Brandon 6 right behind these guys, also lap traffic, but also considerably faster than both of these guys up in front. Remember we mentioned Brandon 6 with all those fresher tires. That's that speed right now that 6 has got. He's going to unlap himself from Kevin King, and he is getting set to put himself back onto the lead lap of this race. He will not be able to contend for a race win tonight if there's no more yellow flags with only 25 laps to go, but he will absolutely be able to at least fight for some more positions if he gets another late race yellow flag. Kevin King gonna hope that he catches Phillip in a bad spot, and in fact he has. Brandon 6 gonna keep Phillip off an ideal line. That's gonna allow Kevin King to close up even further off of turn 4.
That is exactly what Kevin King wanted to see, but not what Agnew Phillip wanted to see. You don't want to get caught in the center of the corner. Chicago, Illinois' own. Maybe he's next door neighbors to CM Punk. We'll have to ask him that if he finishes in the top 3. But Agnew Phillip doing a great job. He's fast on the early portion of the run, really able to make some time up. But for some reason here, you see Kevin King, he comes to life when the tires start to fall off. And I'm not saying that this could not be a caution here, but it's looking pretty unlikely. You've seen drivers get off the racetrack, slide down to the wall, keep us under the green flag condition. We're well over 100 laps ran under green. This race is going to get interesting because Agnew Phillip's not going to roll over for the 31 machine.
He is not at all, and Agnew Phillip, though, has got his hands full if he wants to hold off Kevin King. Of course, Agnew Phillip, your race winner from right here at Darlington. Back earlier this year on May the 9th, got his first race win of the year in that one. looking to take home race win number 2. But Kevin King looking for his series best 5th win of the year is on his bumper. Kevin King has won 3 of the last 6. He may be the hottest driver in the series right now, and he knows as well that 21 laps is a long way to go. Could have forced the issue, could have thrown it up the inside. Instead, he's going to try to set him up here. Gets the run off at turn 4. Is it enough to find a way inside? He looks, but holds for the moment.
Oh, gonna get close, and a little bit of a tap to the back bumper that time with the 94, trying to get Agno Phillip unsettled. That's going to cause him to lose a little bit of time entering turn 3 down the back straightaway. And he's going to back up again, trying to settle the run. Looking outside line. Can he power through and get the nose in? Yes, he does. King's there. Phillip tank slaps off the apron, and Kevin King is back into the race lead.
That was probably the scariest moment Agnell Phillip's going to have in this race. And now Agnell's praying for the caution. You got to think, if you're in the 94 camp, you're hoping that somebody loses it off one of these exits here. Because, A, he's been the best on the short run. I mean, he could put blistering speed down. He pulled away 2 seconds on the field in 20 laps, for heaven's sake. So the 94's hoping for the yellow, and Kevin King, his camp's praying, keep her green, keep her clean. We want to go to the end here. There's 19 laps to go here at Darlington, and I don't think this race is over by a long shot, because anything can happen at the Lady in Black.
You never say never. Agno Phillip now pretty comfortable, 10 seconds ahead of the next closest driver. So we look for the rest of the battles. What else is up for grabs amongst the 13 cars still on the lead lap in this race, of which 11 of them are playoff drivers? It seems very clear the drivers having bad nights are Bowie, Nieto, Casto, and Cato, as Brandon Fetter plays, who had a spin, some contact earlier in the afternoon. He is in 17th position right now, trying to keep the aforementioned Bowie and Nieto duo behind him. And again, with how difficult this track is, driver to driver, nothing guaranteed to the end, as Ross Chastain, the 48 of Jared Windmaster, trying to make a move on Michael Araya, snatched some more points away from a playoff driver.
Driver out of Yorkton, Saskatchewan, trying to run down Michael Araya. Can he get there to the back bumper is going to be the big question. The Sim Speed Shop Chevrolet trying to stay out in front of the 48. Araya has been working his way into the top 10 all race long. He has been right around the cusp of that. Still on the lead lap, trying to stay there, as Jared Weinmeister continues to try to hunt him down, but he's going to get out of shape and slap the outside wall out of turn number 2. So Weinmeister is going to lose a bit more time, and I think he might have to be content here with sitting around in 10th place. Hopefully that hit didn't do him too much damage.
Look who's behind him. My goodness. Brandon Six is right there. You can see him in the shot. Pennsylvania's own Brandon Six in that Toyota, putting some blistering laps down here. He's running a 31.1. He's almost a second faster than a bunch of these drivers that are in front of him. These fresh tires are fresher tires than what everybody else has. It's really playing advantage, and to get a top, to think of getting the top 10, if you're Brandon Six, who stayed out a lot longer. As you look here at the battle, that's Nick Silver, Matt Danson for P4, starting to heat up here. A lot of these playoff drivers right here in the top 7 could potentially give up. Are they going to give up any extra moves? Are they going to do anything crazier to keep themselves in these positions? But what a run for a lot of these drivers who came in here with not a lot of momentum. And Darlington's not a place that you necessarily want to go to and go, yep, this is when I'm going to light the fire, right here. So, I don't know, this is going to be fun to watch with the last 14 to go.
A lot of drivers going to be holding their breaths in the dyed moments of this Elwood Designs Southern 500, the playoff opener for the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. Kevin King, the dominant car of the afternoon, has secured the most bonus points in this race. Agno Phillip cannot get that back, So Kevin King now looking to secure max points. And of course, a race win that would lock him in to the round of 12 and also break that three-way tie for the most wins this year. He's 6th dancing, coming into tonight with 4 wins apiece. Brandon 6 could not only be the first to 5, but could be the first driver into the round of 12. And this is the point in the race, Nolan, where these 29, 30, 31 second lap times start to feel like Daytona laps. They feel really long if you're Kevin King, especially because after he caught up to Agnew Phillip with such authority, Phillip hasn't really fallen back a ton. He's still there within 0.4 of a second. That's close enough that Kevin King can't afford to back it off too much and certainly can't afford to make any sort of mistake right now.
King's been pushing really hard, just trying to catch up to Agnew Phillip. And now it's at the point where you have to wonder, will those tables flip? Has Agnew Phillip been potentially backing off and conserving his tires a little bit more while King's been trying to run him down? King was still a 10.5 quicker that last lap by, but we'll check what it is this time around, because it does seem like Agnew Phillip is staying relatively close within about a half a second. That is more than enough to be able to be within pouncing distance should Kevin King make any sort of mistake. And in fact, it was 0.05 of a second lost for Kevin King on this last lap. He is starting to fall off, and I think he's about on par at the moment with Agnew Phillip's pace. That's not good news for Kevin King if he wants to maintain that race lead.
It is not good news if you're Kevin King that last time by, that Agnew Phillip was faster. Now, granted, it was only by 0.05 of a second. That's still faster. It doesn't matter what you do on the racetrack, and the long run speed necessarily hasn't been the 94's advantage. It hasn't been his strong suit, but you're starting to see some of these drivers back here. Brandon 6, Chris Rabel, Michael Araya. Those drivers are starting to get a little antsy back here with under 10 laps to go. You want to finish higher. And if you're Lariah, you got a non-playoff driver in front of you. You could complete the top 10 of playoff guys. You don't want to be the first driver that was beaten by a non-playoff guy. So the 44 is going to be a little bit impatient here, I believe, to get around that 29. And I believe that's the Kevin Harvick throwback paint scheme here this weekend.
It's a bright-looking race car, but it is the slower of the two in this battle, as Lariah able to make his move on Chris Rabel, so that is more slots gained in favor of your championship hopeful guys. And we talk about maximizing the points, right? Making the best at maybe what wasn't your best night. How about Freenash up to position number 11? He only needs one more to crack the top 10. We've been talking about him a lot tonight, guys. He lost power and internet at his home during practice earlier tonight, had to drive from South Salem to a neighboring town to get on another iRacer's rig, a rig that he had never turned a lap on until tonight, and he is driving that race car despite all of that to almost a top 10 with 7 laps to go.
Now that is dedication to the craft right there. I don't even know. Well, I know somebody that has an iRacing rig, but I wouldn't be driving the 20 minutes down the road just so I could show up for a race. But I'll give props where props are due. Andrew Freenash takes this stuff seriously, and he does not want to let that championship slip out of his grasp. Unfortunately, you have to wonder if you might be able to do enough in the next 2 races to get himself up into a position where he can make his way up into the round of 12. He is sitting 11th place at the moment. That is higher than some of the other playoff drivers at the moment. But remember, it's the top 12 that get in. And with other playoff drivers locking out 1st through 9th, he is going to be dangerously close to that cutoff line when we get around into the next couple of races here.
Now, when I tell you this, quick little story here. Scott Martin actually changed his pedal set, and I was in Discord with him, and I said, Scott, this is the one racetrack on any racetrack. If you said Daytona week, I changed my pedals around a little bit. Cool. No harm, no foul. I'm not coming to Darlington with anything moved on my rig. I'll sit the week out because there's a comfortability about this racetrack that you have to have. And if you're not comfortable in your rig, if you're in somebody else's rig and you've never turned a lap in it, that maybe explains why he wasn't where he was, and for him to adapt to come up here to almost a top 10 finish. And I believe he might be able to catch the top 10 because Chris Rabel's starting to fall off just a little bit, starting to get into the clutches of Freenash there. But what a drive. Now knowing that he's in another person's rig here, That's impressive for the 88.
It explains the cautious start and what a job he has done learning, getting comfortable, and making those advances through the night. A night in which an issue like that could have meant that he may have been scoring 0 points turns into a night where he's on the brink of a top 10 and will most certainly be above that cut line as we head into a much more familiar race next week at the Kansas Speedway. 3 laps to go, and Andrew Freenosh has problems. Andrew Freenosh is sparking. He may have a flat tire, and Freenosh is crashing in turn 1. What has just happened to the 88 car on his own? That car, guys, got loose, smacked the outside wall. There are smarks coming out from underneath it, but no yellow with a lap and a half left. Wow.
That is going to be a devastating blow for Freenosh's hopes to try and get himself around. There's the replay, the hard shot at the wall. It's not over yet, though, because watch, he has no steering control over that car. When the corner comes around, you can't do anything but hang on at that point. Lucky not to bring out a yellow flag. Meanwhile, Kevin King is coming around 3 and 4 to take that white flag.
Kevin King already on the last lap of this race, headed down the back straightaway. Agnew Phillip, 3 car lengths off, may just be out of striking distance. Kevin King just needs to make it through the corner clean. He'll lead 98 laps in the Elwood designed Southern 500, and Kevin King wins at Darlington and advances to the round of 12. Behind him, side by side, dancing on the outside, Harris on the inside, drag race to the line, and Harris by 4 1/1000ths hangs on to that extra point, and the top 5 finish. Danson settles for 6th.
And in the meanwhile, Tom Wetmore got ran over by Jaron Wymaster for the 11th place in turns 1 and 2. So you had all sorts of action kick off there in those final 2 laps. And Freenosh will cross the line under his own power. Decided, you know what? Forget fixing this car. I'm finishing this race, whether I'm on the lead lap or not. And finish this race. That 88 car did.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if he popped a tire. I think he might have caught the wall and broke a tire rod somewhere. And he went hard in the wall when he got back on the gas to exit the corner. That honestly looks like a tire rod issue, that something just broke and it sent him in there. You saw the tire was bouncing up and down like there was a bigger problem there off the exit. But what a drive for Kevin King. Hottest driver coming into the playoffs, opens it up as the hottest driver. He was not going to be denied tonight.
He is your first 5-time race winner this season, and he is the first driver advanced to the round of 12. Kevin King has won the Elwood Designs Southern 500. Let's take a look at your Kayla Synthetics full race results tonight for round number 21 of this Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series campaign. It is Kevin King, Agnew Phillip, and Connor Horn in the top 3. We'll talk with them in just a few moments, but Nick Silver, Cody Harris, Matt Danson, Michael Johnson, Brandon Six, and Michael Lariah, a top 9 lockout for playoff drivers ahead of Chris Rabel, who rounds out the top 10.
Jaron Wymaster giving the smash and sprint treatment to Tom Wetmore for 11th place, with Wetmore finishing as the last driver on the lead lap. From there, you've got Rhett McBride and Kyle Kamer in 13th and 14th. Munatu Major will be finishing in 15th place. Thomas George was 16th, with Brandon Feder plays at 17th. Andrew Freenosh, after his wreck with 2 to go, will finish 1 lap down at 18th place. From there, Sam Biot and Brandon Bowie, also playoff drivers, 2 down.
We go back here to 21st. You got William Smith with Tom Morano finishing 22nd. Brian Chambliss in 23rd. Eric Papineau 24th. Christian Malatrek in 25th. Sean Casto, David Kolb, Ross Cato, Riley Grant Davis, and Brad Fulham rounds out the top 30.
And to put this one home, all of these drivers well short of making it to the checkered flying tonight. Michael Kaczynski, Joseph Tice, Eric Stanford, Garrett Hess, and Gary Sexton round out your 35-car field. That's a look top to bottom at your Kayla Synthetics full race results. Kayla Synthetics is an independent dealer of AMSOIL lubricants serving the United States and Canada, providing custom engine lubrication solutions to all types of customers, from private individuals to race teams, hauling fleets, and everything in between. They have the products and expertise to help you save time and money. Dealer number 300-71815. There's the burnouts for Kevin King. This winning moment brought to you by tonight's presenting sponsor, Elwood Designs. Serving the iRacing community since 2012, Elwood Designs has you covered for everything from logos, numbers, and custom paint schemes. Check them out at twitter.com/Elwood Designs and get your free paint scheme quote today. Let's head down to Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series Victory Lane, where we are stood by with the driver of the 31 machine. Kevin King is your winner at Darlington, and he is locked into the round of 12. Kevin, congratulations on this one. Nearly led 100 laps. Must have been fun battling with Agnell all night.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, I knew it was throwing anchor out there the start of the run. I learned from racing this car that you had to just save. If you went hard initially, like, you paid the price lap 25 and beyond. So I felt bad, and I knew if next time he got by, I would just let him go and see if I could catch him. And I did. But yeah, the tires kind of plateau, and he didn't really go away like everyone else did. So I got a little concerned, but I was able to get to the outside in 3 and 4, and that's kind of what sealed it, because I felt like I could just kind of maintain at that point and just finish the race.
You only pitted 3 laps later than he did, but you found yourself with quite a gap off of pit road. Was some of that a bit of a lockup that scared coming to pit road, or was that kind of the margin that you were expecting that you need to come back from?
Yeah, I knew it was going to be about 2 seconds a lap, so I figured 6 seconds, and then obviously my pit entry wasn't the best. I don't know if it was terrible, but it didn't feel good, so I would imagine I gave up some time there, and then really from there, it's really, you just try to catch him without burning yourself up, but then navigating traffic, you lose 8/10 passing one guy, and then you wonder if he got the same thing, and so the tire advantage you have is kind of dwindled just getting through traffic and trying to close the gap without killing it. And I got kind of concerned there with like 1 second between us. I wasn't really doing anything. And then I finally started putting some laps together, and then I was able to get him to overdrive turn 3 a little bit, which is probably my strong suit. And then I just kind of just sent it on the outside and rolled a little bit, which I knew he was going to have to be stuck down there. And that was that.
We saw you find success earlier in the year, right? Obviously getting your first win of the season at Talladega, but that was only one win over the course of the first 14 weeks. Since then, you have now won 4 of the last 7 races. It appears that you guys are hitting your stride at the exact right moment. What can you attribute that to?
Honestly, this week, I'm going to say thanks to Kenny. He came back and helped us for Road to Pro last week, and I went from 18th to 4th, just learning how to drive better, because he did really well here with the qualifying challenge and just through DWC. But just having him help me, tell me where I could improve through the lines that I was doing, or thinking I was doing something right, he would just kind of fix it for me. So having him last week and then going through the races this week definitely helped. And then I think probably just watching Mikey Guest destroy us on Saturday, I kind of learned how to drive initially. But yeah, I'm going to say thanks to Kenny for giving us some speed for Road to Pro, and then teaching me how to drive this place a little bit better.
Well, you're off it into the round of 12, but it doesn't mean your work ends there. You've secured 3 bonus points to begin that round. You have 2 more opportunities to give yourself even more of a head start before that round. So Kansas and Bristol, 2 very different racetracks coming up on the docket. What's the outlook for those 2?
Kansas, I actually do really well there. I'm looking forward to that track. I haven't been there in quite some time, but it's always fun. So that should be really interesting and exciting. And it's good for me. I don't have any stress of really, not that I changed the way I drive, but I don't feel like I have any more stress to try to win or anything. I feel good. And Bristol is not my favorite track, so I get to not necessarily worry about that one so much, and then kind of focus on the next segments, which are a little tougher. I think we got the Roval and a few other kind of goofy tracks. So maybe start practicing early or something on those.
Looking forward to seeing what's to come. 5-time race winner this season. It is the 8th checkered flag for the team. Kevin, before we let you go, sponsors and shout out to those good folks who makes it happen for you and the guys.
Sure, absolutely. The team doing a great job of Road to Pro, Boosted, Battle Beaver, VRS, Rev Grips. I'd say thanks to Tom for, I think I got into him a little bit off a 2 when he was trying to let me go. I felt bad about that. So I got to talk to him, make sure he's good with that. But I just want to thank the guys back, helping us last week. And of course, Kenny, and then you guys for putting it on. I can't wait to go watch the broadcast because that was a pretty awesome race, I felt like.
It's your first driver who's going to be racing in the round of 12, Kevin King. Kevin, thanks for sticking around and chatting with us. Congrats.
Thank you.
He has done it here tonight in the Elwood Designs Southern 500, leads 98 laps en route to the first win of the postseason. Well, the second half of that battle all night was Agnell Phillip. He led 66 laps after starting on pole. Nolan, tonight he finishes in second.
He sure does. Agnell Phillip, you were running down Kevin King in those last few stages there, but just did not have the pace to overtake him in those final laps. You reckon, though, give you another 5 or another 10, you might have gotten him?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he had a pretty good tire advantage there, and clearly he was the fastest guy on track today. I thought I took care of my stuff. I thought I was taking it easy on that one long run we had before the pit stops, and he caught me from 2 seconds back, passed me and gapped me by a second and a half. So that just shows you how good he is. I don't know, maybe if his right rear was going away, we would have had a chance. I think I did a better job taking care of it on that last run, but just with the way that how important clean air is, I don't know. But yeah, it was a great race. It was a confidence boost being able to hang with him there after he caught me and passed me on that previous run.
It did seem like there was a bit of a switch that flipped for you in the opening stint of that race. You seemed to be slipping back a little bit, maybe a bit more conservative, but the restart after, you did pull out that 2-second gap relatively quickly. What changed in the strategy there?
Well, on the first run, and you could see Kevin doing this too. I mean, we just had to drive so easy at the beginning of the run to make sure we had enough right rear for the end. So there was really no way to do that other than to just drive slowly, and so that's what I was doing on that first run. And I Kevin got a really good start there, and I let him I didn't want to fight too hard at the initial part, and then Sam was I think just trying to make up spots at the beginning, and I knew we'd get him later in the run, so I was just trying to take care of my stuff. Then on that next run, I was trying to do the same thing behind Kevin, and it didn't matter. Eventually he just did a better job of it and started pulling away. So then the restart after that, I just knew the only chance I had was to try and grab the clean air and see if that would make the difference. And it almost did. I think if I just saved a little bit better on that previous run, I could have stuck in the lead maybe. But yeah, just every time you load into a track, you just have to figure it out. And it's slightly different every time. Today's track was a little tighter than they have been this week in the official races. So I would say through the race, definitely a switch flipped it a bit, but clearly, it wasn't quite enough.
And of course, next week up, it's going to be the Kansas Speedway as we go back to cookie cutter racing. What's going to be the game plan coming on over into the middle of this round of 16?
Just still try to rack up the solid finishes. We don't need to win. I think the second place today puts us in pretty good shape to make it to the round of 12 at this point if we have just a solid result at the next two. But this first 3 tracks, the round of 16, are some of my best tracks on the service. A little unfortunate it's not a little later in the playoffs, but I'm just trying to get confidence and get acclimated to this car. I honestly haven't driven it a whole lot this year. My main experience has been in these RSR races. So, just trying to get acclimated, try to understand how the tire wear works and how to save. That seems to be a very different thing compared to some of the other cars on the service. So, we'll just go to Kansas. Kansas is one of my better tracks. So I'm going to know if I'm doing it right. Just like I kind of knew at Darlington that I wasn't doing it right for a lot of this week. You know, and the first step to getting better is figuring out what you're doing wrong. So hopefully we can try to turn a corner there and at Bristol and really set ourselves up for the tracks that are a bit weaker for me.
And before, excuse me on that one, just completely tripped over my words. I want to thank you. Just did it again. Want to say thank you, Agno, for joining us here tonight from Darlington. You had a good run. Hopefully it'll be one better at Kansas. We'll see you there.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks, Nolan.
As I know, Philip joining us up here from second place on the podium. And as we continue to move our way down and through, the next driver up is going to be that number 67 car of Connor Horn. He started 26th, worked his way all the way up to third place. Most spots gained for the 67 car. Terry, you're standing by with a hard charger.
Well, Connor Horn, you have to live up to the expectations of an interview with me here in RSR. You finished P3. Barely any practice, did not qualify. You finished third, and you did it by gaining 23 positions. Walk me through this race and the difficulties that you saw here.
Yeah, that was a struggle for a while. You know, first 10 laps or so, I was making moves. Tom got a bad run. The 51 got a bad run out of a corner and put me in the wall. So I was like, okay, that's how this race is going to go. So kind of settled into a rhythm. Then that first run, it started sliding really badly up the corners. And I was like, dang, I should have practiced. I don't know what I'm doing. And thought I was going to wreck. Then the yellow came out, got another restart. And I don't know what happened on the restart. I guess Farnyar's maybe missed a shift. I thought I was destroyed. I got put in the wall pretty good. I thought it would be really bad. But actually, these cars are tanks as long as you don't break the toe leg. So got lucky there. And then got the final yellow of the race. Just repaired all my damage and just going to go from there. And didn't get a good run to start that final run. I think I lost a few positions, but you know, just trying to take care of my tires and just lap the bottom in 3 and 4 every single time. I know how key that was with the updates they did to the track, and it worked really well. I was pretty sturdy out of the corners, and it seemed like everyone else was just sliding really badly and their rears were gone. So made a lot of positions up on that first run, which put me in position to get to the top 3. I think the 66 had a penalty, dancing short pit really quickly, and I think Nick just wore his tires out trying to get to me. So a lot of stuff went my way this race. I definitely wish I got home earlier than 9 o'clock, or else maybe I would have qualified. I felt like my long run pace was up there with Kevin and Agnell. That sucks, but it is what it is. I'm glad to get third after starting way back, especially after the instance I was in. Lucky to have the car in one piece.
Well, I want to kind of hurt your feelings just a tad bit. You talk about your long run speed. You were the second fastest driver who crossed the line there at the end of this race. The other two drivers, you were almost 0.3 of a second faster than them to take yourself into a position there. So you did have the long run speed. You were able to carry it through the race. But we go to Kansas next week. All right, so Kansas, one of my favorite tracks across the board. Nolan's not so much. He needs to come race a race with me here this weekend. But what are you looking forward to at Kansas? Are you going to run the high lane, or are you going to run the non-traditional bottom side? What do you feel that's going to make you the best when you go to Kansas?
It's going to come down really to where everyone else is running. I've seen a lot of times at Kansas where you go to the bottom line trying to make a pass and you don't make it stick. You go from gaining 1 position to losing like 10. So you have to really time your moves perfectly, and how strong the draft can be at these 1.5 mile tracks. That's going to play into account as well. So you just got to be so methodical, and you got to be careful, because you're going to have everyone in one line, sort of like today on a short run, and one person grabs that wall and can't get off it. It's going to be calamity in the corner. So just got to be careful. I would prefer the bottom just to keep the tires on it, but the top's really always been pretty dominant. Even when the tires wear out, it's so hard to pass someone running the top. So it's going to be tough to make the bottom work, I think. But we'll see. I'd love to run the bottom and pass a bunch of people down there like I did today, but we'll just have to wait and see.
I tell you, I'm always a little biased when I get to talk to you, Connor, because you run the Martin Sports logo on that machine, and I'm a big fan of Martin Sports, as clearly you are. But thank your sponsors here, and tell us all the fans what got you to this P3 finish.
That Bad Fast Landon Mills Designs paint scheme. That's what got me to that finish. pretty beautiful paint scheme. Bernie Breakdowns. It's Bernie Lytics on the car. I'm just too lazy to ask for a new paint scheme. It's Bernie Breakdowns on Twitter. Appreciate them. Appreciate everyone who supports me from them. Team Watson Racing, who I've been with for a few weeks now on the road to pro side. Appreciate all their help. Christian Budd, who's been working with me on the setups the entire way. Can't thank him enough for just keeping me in it. Just got to start clicking off good finishes. We do it consistently, have a good shot at getting to the championship round, hopefully. Finally, maybe starting to figure out these next-gen cars a little bit. I've struggled a lot. I was struggling the first 20 laps, but keeping the tires on it means so much more than I think it used to in the Gen 6 cars with the high downforce package and everything. So going from that package to this at Darlington, it's a big change and definitely something I wasn't used to, but I think it's starting to come to me a little bit.
Well, that's what we like to hear, especially in the playoff time. Connor Horn, congratulations on a P3 finish. We'll see you at Kansas, and we'll see if maybe you can go 2 spots higher and go win Kansas.
I'll try to do like 25 spots better in qualifying. That's the first step. Actually, show up for qualifying. Hopefully we can do that.
Step to having a problem is admitting that you got one, Evan. That's Connor Horn, P3.
But Connor Horn's going to leave tonight in a lot better spot than a lot of those other playoff drivers behind him, guys. And we'll talk points in a moment, but you take a look at what happens. Kevin King jumps to the very top of the leaderboard. And as of exiting tonight's race, the drivers below the cut, Brandon Bowie, Sean Casto, Ross Cato, Bradley Burke, they're all going to be chasing 2,022 points. For Andrew Freenosh, who I should mention, I think we owe an apology to, because we were talking about how good his night had been, the adversity that he had overcome, getting to P11. He then has that issue where he gets into the outside wall, has some sort of damage on the car, falls, and ends up finishing this race in 18th position, and all of a sudden, 4-time is on the cut, Nolan, after race 1.
Definitely not what we expected entering tonight's race, as he finds himself just 5 points up from Brandon Bowie. Luckily for him, he still has 2 races where he can improve that, as here's another look at that one right there. That was what broke the right front tire. Before that, it was just a loose moment on old tires off of turn number 4. It's definitely a rough run to make, but Darlington does claim even the best of the best. And that is ringing true with this mistake from Freenosh here tonight. That could be critical and could even mean he won't be able to go for a 5th title.
And I guess we know Nolan's thoughts on it, so I'll give it to you, Terry. Kansas coming up in 1 week time, the only intermediate track in the round of 16. What are going to be the keys there for some drivers who are coming at it tonight a little bit sweaty?
Well, you have to save the tires. It was what Connor Horn alluded to as well. The tires at Kansas, you'll get a little bit of a run, and it's much different than the other series that run here, where the trucks you can necessarily go wide open for about 10 to 15 laps, and then you kind of have to start backing it up. But these next-gen cars, you saw it earlier in the season, you really have to be cautious. You have to be careful through these corners. While it is a cookie cutter in Nolan's words, it's still a very unique racetrack where it's a D-shaped oval, but coming off the corners, there's a lot of room for error. There's a lot of areas on this track that could really make you second guess it. The high line's going to be dominant, I believe, but who's going to pull the slide job? Who's going to throw somebody in the wall? And is somebody going to be the Jaron Winemaster, the Ross Chastain of that race, and just throw caution to the wind? And hey, we're heading to the home of Wizard of Oz, where there's no place like home. Somebody's going to take the checker flag home at the end of this race.
Going to be a good time, and it is going to be a critical one as the road towards that Full Throttle Cup continues. But until next time, that is it for us here tonight from Darlington. On behalf of our entire team at Real Sim Racing, RaceSpotTV, and for our partners tonight in Elwood Designs and Kayla Synthetics, I want to thank you all for tuning in. On behalf of your broadcast team tonight, for Hugo Luis downstairs, for Terry Radford, Nolan Rempel, and myself, Evan Pasoko, we say congratulations to Kevin King, the first driver locked in to the round of 12. The Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series playoffs continue in 1 week's time on Monday, September the 12th from the virtual Kansas Speedway. That race and every race can be found exclusively right here on RaceSpotTV. Till next time, good night from the Lady in Black.